Good morning. People at the door. Good morning.
Morning.
Morning. Morning. We're giving people a chance to get in. Everyone arriving.
Hello, Professor.
Yes,
I need to ask you, did you get my email?
I did. I wrote you back.
Oh, I didn't get it. I'm sorry.
Matthew, don't worry about it. Please take care of your mom. I hope everything goes super smooth. But
Yeah,
your attendance is good. I understand.
Thank you. I'm gonna be leaving the meeting at 10.
Okay, so I think you'll be able to get some information. The rest will be on YouTube. Just watch it later.
Okay, thank you.
Okay? You're very welcome. Thanks for letting me know. Good morning, everybody. I am just, letting everybody in.
Morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, everybody, and good morning, Callista, who has chatted good morning to everybody. Let's see. We've got a small group today, it looks like. So I'm expecting some people are probably going to trickle in. And you know how much I love that. But in any case, we're fine. You know, we've gone to a deep place, and it really, as far as I'm concerned, last week, it just got off the ground. There was about a month of preparation and, going over basics of, what is frame by frame for a little while, getting the hang of that, and then kind of getting introduced to the idea of tweening. So, it was a while, a little bit of drawing, a little bit of frame by frame, and then the introduction of tweening. And then when we started tweening, we started with shape tweening. And admittedly, we spent a very short time on it. And the reason we did was it's far less powerful than the other forms of tweening. It's exciting to see a circle turn into a square, but pretty quickly you realize, for one, as I've said before, shapes in nature don't just change. You're not suddenly going to turn into something else. So shape tweening sort of limited. Also, it wasn't really very good for all kinds of things. Rotation, most notably, because things rotate all the time. If my hand, if I was going to drop something, it's probably not going to just stay the same orientation. It's going to rotate a little on the way down. Hang on a second there. So there's all kinds of reasons why shape tweening is not my top favorite. You got to wonder, why did I teach it first? Well, it's easiest. It's not the strongest, but it's by far the easiest of the tween methods. And then we moved right into classic tween. And frankly, that's the technique that I've used for most of my career. And what have I liked about classic tween? Well, it's easier for me to change speeds. It's easier for me to let something change color, because that does happen in nature. Light changes all the time and things move from one space to another. Wow, are you okay, Marilia? That sounds terrible. I hope you're okay. Back to classic tweening. So what about classic tweening? It's a little bit harder, I'll admit, but it just gives you so much power. You could rotate objects manually. It even has a rotate feature for things like wheels. It has tint, which we explored, so things can change their color. As they say, roll outside, and they're likely to have more blue on them. It has brightness, because things roll into shadows and they roll into light. So it's got all this convenient stuff, but it did involve an introduction to the idea of symbols, right? Which I'm hoping everybody remembers is an object that you apply to a library. And there's several forms of symbol, and we've been focusing very heavily on graphic symbols, which we're going to do again today. There are other symbols. There's button symbols and movie clips, and we're going to do a little bit of movie clips later this semester. But I would say this, you know, where I'm at, my own feeling about animation is my time's best spent by going back and forth from classic tweening to frame by frame. Classic tweening frame by frame. We can't frame by frame because if my hand is going to have to do this, there's no tweening out there that's good. And then draw it closed and think the computer's going to figure out what each finger should do, never mind where my knuckles are and how things move. So some things are too complicated for a tween, you know, many, many things. So you're going to find that we're going to be combining with the first original form, each drawing frame by frame, and classic tween, and that's kind of where we're headed. Today it's going to be a lot more classic tweening. You know, I don't know about you, but I really enjoyed the box jumping project, and we'll be talking about the, you know, about what we learned last week and moving it substantially forward today. Also, we haven't looked at homework for a while, but I'm not sure we're going to get there today either. I think I should make sure to do it very, very soon. We'll just see what everybody's been doing with the project. Before I move forward, yes, Joseph.
The homework was it number 4 or 5? Because
5.
oh, okay. Because
The homework's always named after the class it was given.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like if I only gave 2 homeworks, but it was week 10, the second homework would still be marked 10. So it's marked after the week. I know we skipped a week, right?
Yeah, I put it 4 just
last
in case,
week's
but
homework.
if you want me to change it, it's fine.
Can you say it again?
I put 4 just in case because it was right after 3, but if you want me to change it to 5, then that's fine.
Yeah, hey guys, are you hearing me okay? Am I cutting in and out?
No, you're not
Tiffany,
getting
can I
out
ask
of
you
it.
something? Are you seeing it? Are you seeing everybody? And I'm only seeing like 5 people and someone in a kimono. All right, I want to say a couple things, and I'm going to need a hand from everybody today. As always, I want your cameras on unless you have camera issues. You know, and Tiffany reminds me who has camera issues because I don't have that kind of memory. Daniela, thanks for telling me of sound. But the other day, my class was totally interrupted by internet connectivity problems, and I couldn't figure out if it was Zoom in general or, you know, what was causing it. And in the end, it wound up just being the connection in my house. So I had to go reset my modem, you know, like some of you guys might know about that, in the middle of the class, which was really a problem. And furthermore, I had to pick up and move to another room in the middle of the class. So if I notice that we're having similar issues because I'm back in that room, maybe this is just the wrong space to be in. I'm going to pick up and move. You know, like you guys keep freezing on my end, and it confuses me, even if you're all seeing things okay. So most of you guys are seeing things smoothly right now? I'm not like freezing?
No, right now you're pretty good.
And right now you're good.
Right now I'm good. All right, let's get a look at the handout, but this is acting pretty strange on my end, so I think I'm going to have to pick up and move. Should I just, let me see. Yeah, I'm going to do it. All right, give me a second. I know it's a little weird. You know, it's strange. This is one thing the teacher has very little control of. My daughter was in a class, and teacher's connection was so bad she had to cancel class. It's a different school, good school, but what can you do? You know, the internet is not a perfect science just yet. All right, let me just grab my stuff. Leave that. All right, here we go. Out sometime, somebody told me. All right. Connection's usually good in this other room. Good morning. You know, I'm sure you guys are constantly dealing with noise in your house, or whether you're the noisy one. And is someone sleeping late when you take your 9 o'clock class? But I'm a loud guy. So this seems to be a better spot for some reason. All right. Guys, you're very patient. I appreciate it. There we go. I'm going to wake everybody up, but that's okay. All right. Hello again. All right. So last week, we did the Cube launching project, right, which is on YouTube. That's class 5. It was really, to my mind, my favorite class so far. It was the first time we made something feel real in the sense of how animations feel real. I want to point out that Bugs Bunny feels real, you know, in the animation context. You know, on the other hand, if I was, you know, walking outside and a rabbit started talking to me, I would be in a state of shock, because it's rather unreal. So I'm just talking about that feeling that we get, that animated feeling of something being believable. You know, by the way, I'm trying to keep an eye on chat for people letting me know if things are going well. I don't know why a bunch of you are freezing and some of you are not. Tiffany, try to keep me aware, if you wouldn't mind, of how the connection's going on your end. Because if necessary, I'll move again. I'll restart my modem again. Maybe I'll blame Verizon, right? So guys, listen, I hate that when a teacher's talking in Zoom and, you know, you miss like 3 sentences and they don't repeat themselves. You know, that class I was telling you about, that where the teacher had to cancel the class because of their internet connection. It was the review for a test. Right? She canceled the class, didn't bother doing the review, and then gave the class the test. I don't like insincere teachers. Anyway, let's take a look at the handout. I'm sharing my screen. All right, let's just get a quick look here, reorient ourselves. So folks, I do want to make one small announcement. I'm going to ask you to look for emails from me over the next week, because there's a chance that I won't be able to be here live. And I'll contact Tiffany and let you know how I want to handle it. If that happens, I can't be here live. My goal is to videotape a lesson in advance. So we won't have the usual exchange, but you know, if I prove to be unavailable for Friday, I'd rather not have a substitute, and I'd rather just deliver the content, which we could do now because of YouTube. So I would just make the movie in advance and let you all know that that's going to happen, so no one's surprised if we don't Zoom. Right? So Tiffany, you and I I'll reach out to you so you're aware. All right, everybody. So please look for announcements from me. They would both be posted on Blackboard as well as automatically sent to your BMCC email. If you don't read your BMCC email, you're going to have trouble, and that's always the case in college. You know, I can't really take separate email addresses from people. So I'll try to bring this up again at the end of the class to make sure people are comfortable with it. All right, guys, so right now plan on a regular class, but you're very likely to hear from me that the class is going to be all video just for that 1 week. So am I making sense? Am I clear? Listen, folks, I don't mind telling you that, you know, it's Friday morning and everybody's exhausted, and I can't get a read even for those of you with the cameras, whether you're grasping it or not. People are looking rather blank. You know, and I understand that, but I'm going to assume that I'm being clear as best as possible. All right, So that announcement isn't on the handout because I wasn't really clear on how that was going to go just yet. We'll see about next Friday. Look for that email, and look, there'll be a bulletin on Blackboard as well. All right. This is all old stuff. I don't have much to say. The last video is posted. It was a really good one. It's a really great way to get more comfortable with classic tweening. What we're going to do today is going to be substantially more challenging, much more challenging. We do a little warm up on classic tween, and now we're going to try to move into moving things on a guide, so you can have curved motion. So we have two different exercises to do. One is much easier than the other. The first one's called the leaf exercise, and it's the idea of how a leaf might fall from a branch in the autumn, in the wind. So it would twirl around on the way down, and then how would one do that? What would happen if several leaves came off a branch? Would they follow each other on the way down if they fell one after the next? So we're going to try that. It's one way to get to know what's called classic motion guides. And then after that, I want to move into a really complicated project. And I think some of you are going to love it. You've been waiting for a challenge. It's the brick, the ball, and the seesaw. And I'm going to show you what that means. A brick is launched at a seesaw. Remember seesaws from the playground, right? This seesaw has a ball on it. So when a brick comes and hits the opposite end, swivels the seesaw, which launches the ball in the air. So the seesaw has to come in an arc. So we have to learn again how to move things on curve. The ball is going to be launched in an arc. You can see where I'm headed today. That's going to be deep stuff. All right. So look, what I want to do is the world's fastest review of basic classic tweening. I'm going to make it really, really short. We've been doing it for a few weeks, but it's so important to have the foundation down that I don't mind repeating a little. And then we're going to move right into this new aspect of classic tweening. All right, let's just go there. I guess the first thing I'd like you to do, just so that we don't have to do it over and over. Give me a second here. I think somebody's waiting. There we go. Got to keep this out. I do want to get today's assets, though. I don't know if any of you already got the assets, because there's two places to get them. Folks, I do want to say something. You know, this particular course, we weren't using assets. Assets just means parts that are delivered to you in advance, you know, which is usually the way it's going to be. You know, really, especially now that everyone's working remotely because of the pandemic, you're going to be delivered stuff all the time. You know, by the way, there's a band that I loved that they almost never play live. You know, people play parts, they email them to each other. So that's assets. Somebody delivered the drum part. You know, here, you know, now it's in the bass player's hands, you know, that kind of logic. So let's get today's assets. I do want to remind you, though, that the way I'm going to be doing it is if there are assets for a class, I want to show you something. Hang on a second there. There'll be two ways to get it. When you first get the handout, if right underneath the handout there's a star, that means I'm offering you assets. So Class 6 today came with Class 6 assets. You could click right on that. If you're already looking at the handout, you could also get it from there. These are the exact same assets. So it doesn't matter if you get it from the menu or from here. Let's do it, all right? So I'd like you to find your way to the handout or our home page and click the link. And if you're in Chrome, you'll see that little arrow pointing down to the bottom. Some other browsers do that. Since we've only done this as a group once before, I'm going to repeat some things about how to work with these delivered assets that I'm giving you. I do want to interject, though, that a couple of you might have taken MMP100 with me. We used assets every week in that class, so you might be used to this. But if not, I just want to say, if you're on a Mac, you do it differently than if you're on Windows, right? So if you're on a Mac, once you've downloaded it, you'll see the name of the asset .zip, because they're all compressed, and compressed files are often .zip files or .rar, but I'm using zip. So if you're on a Mac, you see that bar at the bottom left, right? Because I'm demonstrating that. Just click right on the name of it. It's not much harder on Windows, really. But the idea is it'll automatically take you to downloads, where anything downloaded goes, right? Plus, it will open the zip for you and turn it into a regular folder. You need a regular folder. I'm going to delete all this other stuff here because it's confusing. Mine only has the number 1 because there was something with the same name in there. So the zip's how you deliver it, but you must open the zip, right? So it's a compressed file, you're uncompressing it. I want to say something to Windows people though. You know, it's just a dash different. Windows offers you a convenience, which is cool, but it creates trouble for us. It lets you work on a folder that hasn't been unzipped. But I've had very big problems when you're trying to import, say, sound into the timeline or anything like that from a zip that has not been unzipped on Windows. So even though it lets you do that, I recommend against it. How do you unzip on Windows? You use extract. I know I said this last week, right? And I'm probably going to say it next week. Right. So you want to get to the down folder after you downloaded it, find the zip. You're going to right click because Windows people I'm just talking to, don't double click it. You know, I didn't have luck with that at the school lab and it had erratic. I could be wrong, but in that lab, I was really having problems. So I'm going to ask you if you're on Windows to right click it. You'll see extract or extract all or something similar. Extract the whole folder. Once you have the folder, if it isn't where you want it, move it to where you like to work. So I'm just going to drop mine on the desktop. And now I'm going to the desktop. I've got an older one there. I'm going to throw that out. Just give me a second. I'm going to rename mine so no one's confused. And open it. I want to ask you guys quickly, how is this thing with the assets? Is it complicated getting my assets or is it easy? You could use reactions. You can give me thumbs up. How do you feel, Joseph?
It's easy.
It's easy?
Yeah.
Ming agrees with you?
It's
Great.
easy.
Excellent. You know, I have to really tell you, I really appreciate your letting me know that. Because sometimes I might sound like a loop. Why does it keep repeating this? It's because I'm not getting feedback, and I'm assuming people not understand it. But if people make it clear, I get to move on. Okay, I want you to just leave those assets there because we're going to do a couple warm-up exercises before we get to them. We're not really ready. I got to warn you, they're complex. You know, the leaf one's not so bad. The next one's really rough, but rewarding. So let's start with a warm-up. If everybody would just go right ahead and open up Animate. You know, while it's opening, I just want to say something. You know, a couple of you guys are very vocal. Let me know why your camera's off, or Tiffany. I really appreciate that. Now and then one of you gets your camera fixed or you're on a new machine and I'm like, who's this person? I don't recognize this person because I've never seen you before. It really does help reaching out in some way. So I could recognize you as an individual. It's a warmer thing. Anyway, so here we are. We're in Animate, right? Everybody ready for me? So, you know, each week I say, oh, you know what? I don't typically use this window. You could create new is fine, open's fine. I'm always pushing the file menu just because it's universal. It works in every art program. So, and others like Microsoft Word. So I'm in Animate, I'm going file menu new. For a little while, I'm going to stay with the same dimensions we've gotten used to. I'll be changing that later this semester. So I'm using what they call standard, 640 wide, 480 tall, frame rate at 24. And let's click create. So I'm going to do a quick warm up, just classic tween warm up, right? And then I am going to start talking about moving things on curves. So I'd like for you to just make a simple rectangle for yourself in the top left. I have a specific mission here. Now, before we move forward, this is what I want you to focus on. What are the most fundamental steps for a classic tween? I'm being very blunt with you, right? Just about everything I've done professionally was classic tweening, 80%, 90%. even, right? So I really want to push this hard. The most fundamental step. First thing you do is draw. Second thing you do is make your symbol. So to make the symbol, you have to select that object. So I'm getting my black arrow, and I'm making sure I don't just select the fill. You know, I'd break it if I left this thing behind. So if you have a stroke, at this stage, remember, you've got to double click it to get the whole thing, or you could come outside of it and drag over the whole thing that way. Just make sure the whole thing's selected, then create the symbol. Now, about creating the symbol, you know, one thing I often do in class is I lean really hard on right-clicking things or control-clicking things on a Mac, because yeah, there's all kinds of shortcuts, and they're good to know, but sometimes it's too much information. So I'm on a Mac, so I'm control-clicking the artwork now, and I'm going to use convert to symbol. We could get used to F8, but I'm going to stick with this, right? So if you're in Windows, right-click it, convert to symbol. All right, I'm not going to bother naming this one. It's called symbol 1. That's fine. You guys give me 1 second. I just have to see what's going on. It's weird, I realize. 1 minute. Who's there? All right, so can you take them downstairs? Didn't someone come just the other day? You know what? I think I'm going to have to send the number in. So I can't stop what I'm doing. Apologize. It's a meter, but it's behind all that stuff. Can you, right? And then can you, I think, I just can't stop. All right. Apologies. All right. 2020 is so weird. All right. I apologize. It's rather strange. Okay, let's back up. So we're just making the symbol, right? Okay. All right. So I'm not going to bother giving it a name. I will on a bigger project. I'm still wearing my mask. Okay. Let's click OK. All right. I'm breaking it down. Draw it, make the symbol. But I recommend you check the library just to be absolutely sure. So while you're here, make sure the library's out. The properties palette's usually right next to it. So the library and properties, the 2 tabs right beside each other. Just make sure your symbol's there. All right. What's the next fundamental step? Somebody tell me, what should I do next if I'm going to Classic Tween? Anybody?
Create the classic tweens by clicking the square, or is that
Close. Very close. So if I want to turn on the Classic Tween, where do I have to click?
the right, yeah. Would it be the right arrow?
We have to click.
Right click.
We have to click the
Right click, yeah.
keyframe. So listen, let's break this down for a minute, right? Let's try to clarify this. Geez, I'm very sorry for the interruptions. It's just been such a strange day. I should be upstairs now, and I'm not. I promise there won't be any more. How are we doing, guys? Okay. Okay. All right. So the artwork, there's 2 places you click in general, right? So let's simplify that. One thing you want to get used to is when do you click on stage? When do you click the artwork on stage versus when do you click on the timeline, right? So the artwork's on stage, so one has to click that to make a symbol. But most timing events happen on the timeline. So what I'd like you to do is go to the first keyframe, right? That's that black dot on layer 1. And I'd like you to control click it and turn on your Classic Tween. Everyone's disappeared. Frustrating. Are we frozen? Are you guys there?
Yep.
You know, guys, I don't know what's going on.
Hey there, you're not frozen.
No? So it's got to be on my end. You know, guys, I try my hardest to be patient when people need me to be. Now I need you to be patient. I'm going to restart the internet and because I can't work when on my end. I also have, you know, same issues that you guys sometimes have at home. I realize it's difficult. I'm going to restart the internet. I'm going to start again in about 3 or 4 minutes, so don't go far. I'm going to redo this demonstration. I got a better plan. I'm just getting closer to where the internet is. I'm gonna try it. Okay. Folks, I prefer momentum, so I'm gonna start that over. All right? Let's just open a new document. Right? We'll make believe we're just getting this demo off the ground right now. All right. Let's just forget that one. Can everybody do file menu new? Create it. All right. All right. Now, put a rectangle in the top left and select it. Now, however you select it, just be sure you're getting the whole thing. Don't select part of it. That would break everything. So make sure you've got the whole thing and convert to symbol. Now, since it's artwork on stage, we're clicking the artwork on stage. There's only 2 places you might click, on stage or the timeline. So this is artwork, and we are going to convert it to a symbol, graphic symbol, and we're simply going to click OK. All right, I think everybody's got that. There's a lot of weird feedback today. I'm trying to figure out where it's coming from. All right. Now, this is something I need for everybody to know, right? So this one thing right now, commit yourself to memorizing it. To turn on the tween, right? You want to go to the timeline. We're tweening from one keyframe to another, or the whole layer. So you have to find your keyframe, right? And you either right-click or control-click it. So we're going to the keyframe, right, on the timeline. Remember, the keyframes are the black dots. And I want you to control-click on it. Not on the ruler, please. I've seen people try that. Right on the keyframe. Control-click it or right-click it. And here's where you choose Classic Tween. So if you think about it, those first steps are really basic. You just have to memorize them. Make the symbol first on stage, then go to the timeline and turn on the tween. So you notice it gave you 1 second, right? It's just a starter kit, you know, so one can make it shorter or longer at will, right? Right now, let's go ahead and extend it. One of the ways I like to do things, and not everyone does it the same, is I take a good guess how long I need that layer to last in time. I think we're just going to go to frame 40. Now, about extending a timeline, F5 is one of the shortcuts I really lean on. We could right-click again, control-click again, but I'm going to use F5. So if you go to frame 40 and F5, you'll extend the layer. If you really hate shortcuts, you could control-click or right-click, but you'd have to know which one it is. You see, here's F5. It's insert frame. It's not a keyframe. It's not a blank keyframe. It's just a plain frame. It's just filler. But as I said, I really do prefer F5, so I'm clicking in 40. and I'm using my F5 trick. You know, at the risk of sounding wildly repetitive,
So hard to pick. Just look at the stats and the more on the left than on the right.
what was that? If, at the risk of sounding very repetitive, right? Remember about the whole FN issue, right? The FN key, the function key. So if you're on a laptop, all the F keys on top, F5 tricks and F6 tricks, they're all going to need your FN key. How is everybody okay? So look, that's the basics. After that, really, oftentimes, you don't need any shortcuts. You just need to know where you are in the timeline. So this is what I want to do to make my point. I want this thing to bounce off the wall once and then return, then come back to the left and land in this corner. So watch again. I want it to come on a diagonal, hit the middle of this wall, right? And then come back and land in this corner. And I got 40 frames to do it. So if you bring the playhead back, what if we went halfway, right? So half of its travels, right? So right here is where it's supposed to hit the wall. So if you bring your playhead to the middle, all you have to do is grab the object and bring it to where you want it to go. So all that's going to happen is that object is going to travel diagonally and stop there. This is what I love about a classic tween. Once you see that purple bar there, all you got to do is know where the playhead is before you make a move. At this stage, I want to get it to this corner by the end frame. It took 20 frames roughly to hit the wall. I want it to take about the same time to get to the end. So I bring the playhead there, and then all I do is grab the object and put it in the next corner. So if you play the whole thing, this is what you got. You know, last week I had the feeling people were doing great with the cube bouncing exercise, but you know, that was a million times more complicated. So I think we need to wake up, and I want to say something to everybody here who likes this stuff, who really wants to do for a living. Make time to repeat it like crazy. You know, like if you're a video game player, stop for a few months, give up video games, do this instead. You know, spend all that time doing this. You know, if you're addicted to Netflix or whatever, I don't know how much you watch a day. You watch 3 hours a day, like the average American watches from 3 to 5 hours of TV. Who has that? Where did they get that time? That should be doing this. Let's do one more, right? We're going to do a zigzag thing like we've done before because we want to get to the cool stuff, more interesting stuff. Okay, so can everybody open up a new document? File menu new. Great. So every document you open gets its own empty library, right? It also gets one layer automatically with one empty keyframe that's currently hollow or white because nothing's living there. This time I want you to put an object in the lower left corner. Mine's a little large. I'm going to make it smaller. All right, make sure it's selected and convert to symbol. Can Classic tween something that isn't a symbol? And let's click OK. And there it is in the library. All right, I think now everyone's clear that once you're ready to turn on the tween, you go to the keyframe and say, all right, give me my Classic tween. So we did our thing on stage, now we're going to the timeline. I'd like you to go to that keyframe, control click it or right click it, and ask for a Classic tween. Be very careful not to slip. This has got different rules. We want a Classic tween. Now, chances are that a second's not going to be enough for many things you want to do. Let's go out to frame 45 this time and just extend the timeline. I would like you to adopt F5. Now, something that's going to take you a little bit of time to get the hang of is when do I need a keyframe? That's F6. And when do I need a plane frame? That's F5. When you're extending time, just time, it's always F5. Today, I'm going to give you a lot of reasons when F6 is good. But right now, let's just focus. F5 gives you time. Remember doing it between keyframes to slow things down? So F5. All right, now about the zigzag, this is what I'm going to be looking for. So I want one bounce off the ceiling first, then it bounces off the floor in the middle, then it bounces off the ceiling and returns to the right side. Think of an upside down W. So it's going to hit the ceiling here the first time. So I got 45 frames here. I'm going to come, I don't know, I'm just going to kind of estimate to about frame 8 or 9. So I bring the playhead over. And now we're ready to start moving the object. There's only one keyframe. There's about to be another. So I'm going to bring it up a little bit of an angle and hit the ceiling. So now there's a keyframe down there, a black keyframe. There's two different objects now. There are two instances, to use animate language. There's two instances of my symbol. That's cool, because later on I could rotate either one, I could tint either one, I could do brightness on either one, I could make one transparent. Wherever there's a keyframe, I have all that freedom. But let's move forward with the zigzag. All right, so I'm going to go about the same 10 frames roughly, same 9 or 10 frames. I'm going around 18, 20. And I'm going to drag it down where I want it to go next. So again, a diagonal. This time it's going to hit the middle of the floor. I think once we get to this stage, people are pretty comfortable from here. So it's like, where am I going next? And how long does it take? Well, let's say the next one takes about the same amount of time. Roughly 10 frames, roughly. And now it's going to hit up here. So I'm going to drag it back up to the ceiling on a little bit of an angle. And now I'm going to finish it off. And if I'm going at this speed right now, I'm going to continue and go another roughly 10 frames. And I'm just going to bring it down on a diagonal to the final corner. So I got my upside down W. Let's rewind it, play it. I want to ask you guys something. How many of you guys find this, be honest though, crazy easy? Does anyone find this just crazy easy?
Me. We've been practicing, so it's kind of.
It's easy.
All
It's
right.
straightforward.
All right, great. Because I've been kidding around with my students all week. I have 100 students about how poker faced your generation is. I don't know if you ever gamble. Hope not. But you're trying to watch the other person's face. If you're playing poker and they look excited, you don't want to put any more money down. But your generation's like, I do not reveal emotions. They're my own private business. So when I'm overwhelmed with joy, I look like this. And if I'm filled with terror, so I can't tell as a teacher what's going on. Thank you for the feedback. Even if this is okay, not super easy, you're all right. I want to go over a couple quick things with this before we move forward though.
Is there a way you can curve the objects with the classic thing?
Curve the path that it travels, you mean? So it
Oh,
doesn't
yeah.
go. That's the big mission today. We just haven't gotten there, but today we're
Oh.
going to hit it hard. So
Okay.
you're perfect time to ask. I just want to go over the properties real quickly. So remember, you could go to any of the keyframes. And we all have the same amount, I believe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I've got 5, which means there's 5 instances of art on the stage. Any of them could be rotated, scaled, tinted, made transparent, darkened or lightened, all of that. Let's do it to a few real quickly, okay? Let's go to the very first one for a minute. So you just bring the playhead back to frame 1. You see there's a keyframe there. I want you to look at your properties palette for a minute, because I got to remind you about this. If you want to change the properties, the character of an object in some way, in a classic tween, you have to find the keyframe. And I did. But notice I'm looking for color effects and they're not here. If you want color effects, find the keyframe, then click the object. Then there's color effects. I'm going to use some tint. So you have to go to the keyframe, one of the black dots, and then you must click the object on stage once. Because you have to tell it, no, I'm not talking about time. I'm back to the artwork. So you click it once. So let's go to tint. Hope everybody remembers how to use Tint. Is really no time to review. Click a chip, pick a color, then pick an amount of the color. Let's go to the next keyframe. And I still want color effects, but again, they disappeared. That's because I have to click the artwork once, right? So I just did Tint. This time I'm going to do alpha. That's transparency. So I go to the keyframe, I click the artwork once, color effects show up, and I could choose alpha. Very similar steps, isn't it? And you could choose how transparent you want it. Let's go to the next keyframe and check out brightness. I'm going to make this very dark. So I'm going to go to the next keyframe. Again, color effects disappeared. So I have to click the artwork once. And now I'm going to do brightness. You can get super light, which against a white background looks kind of the same as transparency. Or you can go to the left. I'm going all the way down to black. Very, very dark, or maybe near it. Okay, alpha, tint, brightness, same steps. Could you rewind it real quickly and just play it so you see what happened? So all those different color-oriented changes, color effects played out. I do want to remind you just 2 or 3 fast things. But still, to keep things interesting, we need to play with scale and rotation. But I want to add something else. In nature, that happens all the time. You know, I mean, really, like my hand right now is rotating from my elbow. You know, that's not a straight line, it's a curve. You know, and so many things are on curves. It's going to involve some kind of rotation or moving on a curved path, which is coming up. So let's do a little bit of that. I want you to choose any keyframe you want, because right now you know the path. If that's enough excitement for you, you could just go to the next keyframe. Now this one is just simply about the transform tool. We're going to use this tool a lot today, so I just want to mention it. The free transform tool, right? By the way, it selects, so that's cool, but it also rotates and scales. So I'm going to do both. Here's a little rotation. I think I'm just going to do a little rotation, just like that. So now, as it approaches that spot, it's going to start to rotate. Well, that's a lot like what happens in nature. You know, it approaches that rotated moment, and then it's going to actually come back down the way that it was. So I want to just note a concept that you feel already, but let's make it really concrete. When you change the nature of an object in a keyframe, the thing just before it changes and just after. If I suddenly made this red, it has to turn red on the way, right? And then it turns back to the original color when it leaves. So each key moment is a temporary change. Let's go to one more keyframe and just change the scale. I want to move on. So I'm going to the next, and I'm just going to change the scale. I'm making a big change just to make a point. So when you play from the beginning, all kinds of stuff is going on. So folks, listen, I think the class is doing fine. And every time I get a chance to look at the homework, I'm very much encouraged. But right now, I'm just a little worried about those first simple steps because they're a little boring and hard to remember. You know, you draw the artwork, you make your symbol, but then you turn on the tween from the keyframe in the timeline. And I'm probably going to repeat that until you hate me. Let's challenge ourselves a little bit. I want to introduce something else. I am tempted to keep reviewing, but I just think I need to keep it fresh. And I got a good and relevant question. So I want to try our first classic motion guide. Guys, let me interject for a minute. The biggest problem, biggest challenge, let's say, as an animator, is there's so many ways to do the same thing. And you're not always the boss. So like it helps to know many ways because when you're working on a team, you may not be the one making that decision. You know, most animators don't work alone. It's very rare, very rare. So, you know, we're going to need a variety of options. And I can't even teach them all, right? So we're going to take it as far as we can. Let me just see if there's someone at the door. Just heard the something happen. Now it looks like we're all right. Let's open a new document. This is brand new, so I think it should be pretty interesting.
He says he needs to leave the class.
Oh, okay. Was that Matthew? I didn't hear the first word. Tiffany, who needs to leave the class?
Matthew.
Matthew. All right. He warned me in advance. He's taking a family member for surgery, and you know, no argument there. He's doing the right thing. Okay. So let's open a brand new document. Again, file menu new. Same size, same speed. All right, guys, I really want everybody to not improvise at all. This is fairly large, and with some luck, we're going to go really, really deep today in this. I do need an object in the lower left again, right? So give me something fairly small too. A small, simple object, something like that. I'd like you to select it carefully and make a symbol. And it's in the library. So Mac people, get used to your way. Windows people, get used to your way. It's really all about whether you're right-clicking or holding down Control and clicking. So once it's in the library, let's go right ahead and turn on that tween. Now I want to point out that if I was going to keep moving in straight lines, like we've been doing most of the semester, right, I'd get busy right now. But if I want it to move on curves, I have to make a secret track for it, right? The track is called a motion guide. In this case, a classic motion guide. The thing that I got to ask myself before then, though, is 1 second long enough? I think 1 second's just brief for mostly anything. So I think we should extend that timeline a little bit. Again, I'm going to go out to frame 45. So let's go to 45. I keep pushing the F5 trick on you. So you right click there or control click there if you need to. You could say insert frame, or you just click on it and use F5 instead. You should just see the timeline extend. No new black dot. Right? If you did F6, you've got a new keyframe over there. That won't really break anything, but it will confuse you down the road. All right, we're about to do something brand new, right? So I'm hoping everybody's okay. How are you all? Harold, how you doing today? I'm just randomly saying hello to you.
I'm not doing okay.
Really, are you okay? I was just
No, not really.
you're sick, are you? I heard you coughing before. Is that what it is?
Yeah, I'm sick.
Oh no, you sound terrible. Listen, Marilia, if you're too sick to stay, watch the YouTube video later. You know, if you're really suffering, just go get some sleep, all right? I don't want school to interfere with your health.
Okay.
Harold, the only reason I asked you before is because I so rarely hear from you. So I was inviting you to say something. How are you today?
He's on the chat. He says he's good.
Oh, he's on the chat, doesn't like the microphone. He doesn't like the microphone, and I don't like the chat. So we're going through you, Tiffany. All right, in any case. We're about to add a
Well,
guide.
I'm going now then.
All right, I'll see you, Marilia. I hope you feel better.
Okay.
See you.
Although the thing you're gonna do is really complicated, right?
Yes, it is. It's not complicated yet, but it's going to get that way. Really, it's all going to be on the video. You're too sick to do this. So listen, I got to get back to class. The decision is yours. All right, here we go. All right, to create a classic motion guide, watch this strange move. I'm going on the layer itself, this little area here.
But how do you make the set up a classic queen because it's not working for me right now.
Okay, let me back up. Did you already make a symbol?
Yeah.
You did? Okay, let me back up. So, and this is essential. We really can't move forward at all for the rest of the semester without this. Once the symbol is made, go to the keyframe on the timeline. Are you on a Mac or Windows, Zach?
I'm in a Mac.
So on a Mac, hold down your control key and click on the black keyframe to get the menu. And then we choose Create Classic Tween. And you should see that purple line.
It appears for the next, like, yeah, it makes a new layer.
Nope. Let's try this again. So I'm not clicking here, here, or here. I'm clicking right on the keyframe, the black dot. You hold down Control, click on it. A menu shows up, and you click Create Classic Tween. That's not working?
It worked. It worked now. It worked.
Zach, can I ask you a question? Were you here last week?
No, I was sick.
Did you watch the video?
No, I didn't get the chance to.
I understand. Were you here the week before?
Yeah.
Because we've been doing this for a few weeks.
Yeah, I know, but it's just that I tried it and it wasn't, it made a whole new layer and it kept making a whole new layer.
Yeah, you know, the only way to make a new layer is by clicking the new layer button. There's, you know, so I'm a little confused. Maybe you were, we'll see. But listen, if it happens again, let me know.
Okay.
I might screen share with you. All right. So everybody has the tween turned on, but notice we didn't make it go anywhere. It's just turned on. It's nothing but a purple line, right? So I'd like you to join me on this. I'm going to, I extended, hey, how long did we extend the timeline before that demo? Was it 40 frames? I think it was. So Zach, you and I have to catch up. I'm going to frame 40. I highlighted it. This time I'm going to tap F5, right? If you're on a laptop, don't forget your FN key to hold that down to extend the timeline. All right. Finally, we're ready to make the classic motion guide. So now I am going to click here, but I'm going to hold down Control on my Mac. Some of you are going to right click because you're on Windows. And I want you to notice the menu looks different wherever you click, right? So it's very important that you know where to click. This is where the tweening stuff shows up. But over here in this vague area, I get different options because we're looking for this. Add classic motion guide. Now, forgive me for repeating it, right? I just want to say you can't do this on stage. You can't do this here on the timeline. You have to do it to the left, right beside the layer name. Add classic motion guide. Now, this is odd. Now, what should happen right now is above your current layer, you've got this layer, fancy layer that has a different icon. It's got a curved little icon. Now, in the interest of being super clear, hang on a second there. If you click the wrong thing, right, you didn't click Add Classic Motion Guide. If you accidentally click Guide, right, you just broke your layer. You have to Command Z right away. You get this symbol that looks like what's called a T-square. You better Command Z that. So we're going to add a classic motion guide. All right. Now, this is going to get just a little complex, not very complex. I want you to go to that keyframe. So you've got the classic motion guide. We're going to do this a few times. We're on the classic motion guide. There's a black keyframe beneath it for a different layer. Its layer has a hollow one, right? Now, I want you to click it just so you know where you're drawing. Now, this is what's about to happen. We're going to draw a path, simply a line. That line is like a train track. The only thing different from a regular train track is the line is above the train. But other than that, it's the same idea. Your object's going to follow that track with a couple of steps. So I'm going to ask you to try to follow me as exactly as you can. We'll repeat it as often as we need. I'm going to suggest the pencil tool. So you want to go to your toolbar and find the pencil. Now, the biggest problem with drawing this classic motion guide is it's got to be crazy smooth, really smooth. So pen tool experts would use the pen tool. But I have a few tricks to help us get a smooth guide. Can you guys watch this first before you do it? So I got my pencil. At the bottom of the toolbar are these little symbols here. I want to make sure it says smooth, not straighten, not ink, smooth. And watch what I'm going to do. I'm starting in the middle of the object. This is really important. And I'm drawing the path as smooth as I can. And I'm coming way down here. Now, I want to show you something. I got a nick over here. I want to prove it to you. That's going to cause me a lot of trouble. Give me 1 second. That's because it's hard to do. This is going to break it. So I'm not even going to try because I know it's not going to work. I have to make the road again. It's like a road with the world's worst pothole in it. So if yours has a nick like that, Command Z, be patient, and do it again. And you can't do it in parts. You got to do it in one line. We'll learn other ways if we choose to. I don't see any nick in it this time. No little weird little dent, but I still need to smooth it out. So I'd like you to get your black arrow and highlight that guide. So you might have to double click it. Make sure you get the whole guide. And I want to show you something on the properties palette. On the properties palette, there's several tabs inside of it. One of them is tool. In a second here, actually, it's not, give me 1 minute here. Sorry, we don't need the tool one. On the properties palette, it's probably going right to object. If not, just click the tab that says object. I want to show you something. At the bottom, there's a smooth button. Smoothen. What happens if I click it? If I click it a few times, look how smooth that just got.
Mine was smooth automatically when I drew it on the pencil.
Say that again, Jacob.
Mine got smooth automatically when I was practicing like drawing it with the pencil.
That's fantastic.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, the pencil tool was set to smoothen, so it's supposed to smooth by itself. But if it's not smooth enough, then we use that button I was just showing you. We're going to use this a lot when we start doing people, which is coming up fairly soon. And I know everyone's kind of been waiting for that, but we really have to get through these steps to do that. So look, guys, if yours came out great, that's fantastic. If it didn't, right, you just delete it. And I'm going to do it one more time anyway. So I'm going to select the whole thing and delete it. The thing that's first importance is you got to be on the correct layer. And that's why I'm asking you to click that keyframe. If you draw it on the lower layer, it's not going to work. So it's got to be on this special layer. So I click there first. I got my pencil tool. It was set to smoothen, you know, to the smooth mode, I should say. But if it's not smooth enough, yeah, sure, I'm going to have to fix it. So I start in the middle of the object and I'm drawing as smoothly as I can. Yes, if I had a drawing tablet, this would be easier, this part, I'll admit it. And I do have a drawing tablet, I'm just not using it. And I let go. And that's pretty smooth. But if I don't think it's smooth enough, I'll either do it again, or I'll get that black arrow and select it, double click it. Because if you do that, if you click it with the black arrow, you'll see the properties palette has the smoothen button way at the bottom, and I'll click it a couple times. I want this to be as smooth as it can be. It's picky is what I'm saying. It's not going to work for everybody in the room just because the track is bad, the train just won't move. Okay, so here's the way we actually make it work. So you'll notice that the new layer is the same length as the first layer, the one with the classic tween. So let's take the playhead over to the other end. I'm just going to zoom out a little. So I'm taking the playhead over to the other end. And as we saw in today's first exercise, if I move the object, it just makes a new keyframe. You know, the original object is still on the left. The new one here just created a keyframe on the right. So again, one more time, I'm Command Z, right? That object never went anywhere yet. There's a train track, but the train never left the station. So I'm going all the way to the right, and I'm going to move that object. It makes its own keyframe, which is cool, because it knows it's a tween. At this point, if you rewind and play, this is what I'm hoping you see.
Nope, that didn't happen with me.
We're gonna do it all over again, Marilla. You decided to stay. We're gonna do it again. Joseph, this is what you were looking for, isn't it? Right. So I want to do this again because I want leaves to fall and all kinds of craziness to happen that we're gonna lean on this. The couple things I don't like about it is it's really hard to work with that track after you drew it. In many cases, it's just easier to draw a new one. You know, I want to say for the record, in case anybody in here is a heavy duty pen tool user, all this would be easier with the pen tool because the pen tool has little features where you could adapt a line and fix a line. It's just that we don't have time. That's more appropriate for a drawing class than it is for us. So we're doing it with pencil and smooth. Can we just, I know it takes a lot of patience. I would like to do it one more time. To keep it interesting, we're going to do a loop-de-loop this time, you know, instead of just a curve. So let's go ahead and make one more document. And Marilia, just start on the new one. Everybody, file menu new. Same size, same speed. Make sure you could see your whole stage. All right, and draw an object. Some of this stuff has to become second nature, right? If you're gonna class to Tween, you always select the object and turn it into a symbol. If you forget to turn it to a symbol, there's gonna be problems, so we don't wanna do that. So make a symbol and okay it. If you have any doubts, go to the library and take a peek. All right, so here it is in the library. All right, next step, let's just turn on our Tween right away. I want people to get really used to that. You always turn on the Tween by going to your keyframe. So go to your keyframe, that's the black dot on layer 1. Be very sure that you're right-clicking or control-clicking it, and we're only gonna do classic Tween. So we're doing create classic Tween. You should be seeing that purple bar and a bunch of little dashes. The dashes mean you got a Tween, but it's incomplete. That's fine for now. I'm getting people in the habit of extending timelines. I'm not saying you have to, but let's face it, how many things are you gonna do that take place in 1 second? You know? So let's extend the timeline. Let's go out to frame 45. What's the shortcut to extend the timeline? What's the key I'm gonna need? F what?
5.
F5. So let's go out to frame 45 and F5. So again, I have to use the FN key on my laptop, so I'm holding down my function key and I tap F5. For the record, timing is everything for us, folks like us. So F5 is going to be a big part of your life. All right, so we got an object that's ready to roll. You know, it's got classic Tween. It's almost like you started your car, but you didn't go anywhere. It's just sitting there, right? And we're not ready to move it yet, right? We want to make a path, a road for it to follow. So, can everyone make a new layer? Now, this is the only way to make a new layer. There may be others hiding that I've never seen. Did I hear a question? No. Okay. So, let's make a new layer by clicking the new layer button, this plus sign. Oh, guys, I'm sorry. Could you Command Z? You know something? I've been doing this for a long time and I make that same mistake whenever I'm talking. You see, we're not making a regular layer, right? It's a kind of layer, but it's a special layer. And there's more than one way to make it. Again, it's called Classic Motion Guide. The fastest, most convenient way is this. And you might have to take notes. You know, for the record, I could always tell who's going to get high grades. People who never take notes almost never get high grades. There's too much to remember. In any case, you're going to come next to the name. This is where I like to click, and you control click right here or right click. And you'll find this. This probably exists somewhere else, maybe under insert, timeline. Nope. This is going to be hard to find, right? So this is definitely the best way to do it. Control click or right click, add classic motion guide. So we're about to draw the guide, but I just want to be clear. you have an object, you know you want it to travel on a path. So you turn on your tween, and then you make your classic motion guide. You're telling that layer it's going to be guided. Let's move over to the pencil tool. At this stage, we're ready to draw the guide, and we're using the pencil tool for it today. Pencil tool is going to behave best if you have it set to smooth mode. Right? So I'm going to set it to smooth mode, and it might not be smooth enough, but it's sure going to help. Now here's one thing you need to know. You can't draw it up here. You have to start in the middle of the object. Just eyeball that. Could you guys watch what I'm about to do? To keep this interesting, I'm getting more complicated. I'm really used to the touchpad. And so I got a very, very smooth line there. But if you see a less smooth line, give me a minute here. So if you got a line, no smoothing in the world's going to help it. I could probably smooth most of it out, but this one little part here, that's going to be a train wreck. So I really have to just be brave and Command Z it. You have to do it until you have one that really looks smooth. Now, if it's just rickety, but it doesn't have nicks in it, I keep using that term nick, you could smooth it with the black arrow. You get the black arrow, double click the line to make sure you get the whole thing. You don't want to accidentally get part of it. So we're going to double click it and go to the properties palette. When you click something with the black arrow, the bottom of the properties palette has this feature called smoothing. In fact, I'm going to make it easier to see, this one right here. So I click it a couple times and it'll keep smoothing it out. I like the way mine was, so I'm backing up a little. All right, now, you got your train and the engine's running. You got your track, it's got a specialized layer. The only thing that's left to do is make the thing move on the track, because we're going to have a lot of freedom with what we could do once we get the hang of this. Right now, we're just doing station 1 and station 2. You know, it's just traveling from station to station. So, you don't want to be on frame 1 when you move it, right? Go to frame 1, make sure that object's still where you left it. Bring the playhead to the end when you want it to arrive on the right side. So I'm going to the end of the timeline, 45 frames down. That's almost 2 seconds of time. And now you grab that object and move it over. I want to point something out. It should snap. You should feel it snap. I want to show you what I mean by that. Watch this. You see it keeps snapping back? It knows it's supposed to be on that guide. If I drag it far away, it might stay. Oh, it just snapped to a different place. So you just want to make sure that it snaps. If both ends are snapped, this one's acting a little funky, it should work. Now I'm going to ask you guys questions, see how it's
It
going.
didn't work again.
Okay, Marilia, I'm going to turn off my screen sharing for a moment.
Mine didn't work either.
Okay, so, hey, Naftali, you got your computer.
Yeah.
Bravo. So listen, quick look at Marilia's. I'm going to stop my share for a minute. All right, Marilia, turn on screen share. Click that green button.
Yeah, let me.
Oh, you can't, because you're on your phone.
No, I can. I can.
You can? Okay.
No, I can't.
You can, because I could tell that you got a vertical screen.
Yeah.
Naftali, you want to screen share with me? Should we? You're saying it didn't work, right? Can I get a look?
Ooh. Because like I'm on a second computer as I'm doing it, as you can see.
So you can't screen share with me. Got it. So guys, listen, I happen to love teaching online, but in the future, I'm only going to agree to schools if they could check out that everybody's, ready. I can't, I wish I could teleport. Whoosh, I'd zip over to Naftali's house, take a look. But since I can't, all I've got is Zoom. So all we can do is do it one more time. But I would like to know though, right? If your camera's turned off, you could use the reactions, right? How many of you have this working? Give me a thumbs up. I just want to know our success rate. Physical thumbs or reactions, I need to count. 1, 2 people?
I just want to say that like I did this like very hastily.
All right, we're going to do it over. Only 2 people have this working, is that true?
Yeah, it's not working for me.
3, 4. All right, half the class. All right, that's okay. We have to do it again. No big deal.
So you said not working? No, it's working fine for me actually.
Is it?
So I'm fine,
All right,
yeah.
guys, can I ask one more time? You really need to give me feedback.
Lista says it works, and Daniela says it works.
All right, sure. It looks like we're 50-50. Let's do it again. Okay? Let's go back to the timeline. Everybody, file menu new. It's okay. We'll take as much time as we need. File menu new. Let's click create. All right, folks, even if it worked, I got to be really clear.
You're not screen sharing anymore.
I'm not. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you. Make yourself a new document. Guys, listen, we're in a very repetition-based art form. And I've made this speech before, so I'm not going to make a speech this time, but everyone who's mastered anything mastered it because of extreme repetition. Tiger Woods, arguably the best golfer in the world. How many hours a day does that guy golf? How many hours a day? So, animators for sure are incredibly repetition-oriented crowd of people. You're going to have to do it a lot of times. We do it a bunch of times together, but you're going to have to, find time on your own, take it further. All right. Everybody's got a blank document? Please be sure you could see the whole thing, right? So you can move this edge down if it helps. All right. Give me that rectangle in the bottom left. It's a brand new document, so we have to start from scratch. Right? Go step by step. You cannot do this in a rushed way. Right? You just cannot. Right? So let's select the whole thing. Get the black arrow. Select the whole thing, including the stroke if you've got a stroke. And get that in the library. You're going to control click it. Convert to symbol. Don't skip steps. All right? I'm not going to name it because it's the only symbol I'm going to have. And I click OK. So there it is in the library. I'm going to be using the properties palette mostly though. Next, let's turn on the tween. Now, to turn on the tween, you have to go to the keyframe. I think most of you got this by now. I don't want to take it for granted. In the physical world, I would be walking around to everybody's computer about now, or Tiffany would be. We're going to control click this and say create classic tween. It's pretty comforting when you see that purple bar, right? All the stuff we were doing earlier today, this kind of stuff, it all had the purple bar. All right, but we're not ready to use it. We're just preparing it. Now, I'm hoping this next very odd step is clear. To turn on the classic motion guide, you come here on this area. So I like clicking right next to the name. It gets me nervous clicking too close to these buttons. So I click in this small gap. You have to right click or control click, depending on your computer.
Quick question, Professor.
Yeah, sure.
When I did the motion tweening, or when I activated it, it created a new layer. Is that right?
No, well, for one, we're not doing a motion tween. You're doing a classic tween.
Yeah, I was following you, and when I did that, it created a new layer.
No, and that's definitely not right. So I wish I could look at your computer, because somebody else also had a mystery new layer.
Yeah, Harold had that same problem. I was gonna bring it up to you before break.
Yeah, and I can't
But he's
even.
kind of getting through it
All right.
by just creating the classic twin, and then it just makes the thing a symbol automatically when you do that. So
Yeah,
he's
so listen, we're
avoiding
mixing
right
different
clicking the change.
subjects right now, and I'm going to lose momentum with everybody. But I just want to answer Tiffany about that one aspect. I've been lying a little bit about the symbols because, yeah, it's true. Classic Tweening will see if you don't have a symbol and will automatically make one for you if it needs it. The reason that's a terrible habit for us is it doesn't give you a choice what kind of symbol. So folks like us have to make our own to make sure that the program doesn't make the wrong kind. So I'm going to ask people never to skip that step. Naftali, I'm going to do this one more time though, okay? And then I'm going to have to move forward before I start losing people. Right?
I mean, like you can just like keep going.
No, I want to
Because
do it
I
one
don't
more
want to.
time. You've been, you've been through enough, my friend. So I really want to, I don't want to leave you out. This is where I was at right after I made the symbol, right? Symbols in the library, I just backed up. Now here's the thing. I can't imagine what anyone's clicking that's making a new layer, right? Really, I can't even imagine what it is. Unless you're clicking here and choosing insert layer, right? That would do it. The first thing is you're control clicking on the keyframe to turn the tween on, only here. So you should be able to Command Z back, Naftali or anyone else with that problem, so you get back to the one keyframe.
No, the new layer appears when you're doing the guide.
Only when you make the guide. That is true, and that is correct. But not when you turn on the classic tween, which is what
I just like controlled Z'd and I created the tween again, and it came back.
the new. It created another layer.
Yeah, I got rid of that layer, and then I put in the new one and with the tween, and it just came back.
So Naftali, are you sure that you're control clicking on this black dot?
Oh, I'm on a Windows, so yeah.
It's the same on Windows. I've done this on Windows. Tiffany, your mic's off.
So just right.
I'm trying to get in the class
Aurelia, you have to wait.
in the computer.
Aurelia, you have to wait. Tiffany, were you trying to tell me something?
I was just gonna say on the Windows it's a right click. You don't have to control click or anything.
Right. So guys,
But I still don't get why a new layer is being made.
Yeah. Naftali, if you're clicking on the black dot,
Yeah.
and you're choosing create classic tween,
Mm-hmm.
I don't see any way that can make a new layer.
Clicking on the dot there. And okay, now I didn't do it this time.
All right, so listen, if anybody finds out what that error is, I would very much appreciate knowing, because it means other students are going to do it and you're going to help them indirectly, right? So again, if that happens again, Naftali, let me know if you could figure out what caused it.
Okay, like when I did it this time, it said something about a symbol being made before, like I'm like I okayed it.
Make the symbol. All right, guys, listen. I'm a little frustrated because I've repeated stuff so many times. You can't skip making the symbol, or you get that warning. It says, oh, "I'm going to make a symbol for you,"
I didn't get it the last two times.
because you weren't turning on classic tweening. You were making new layers, and I don't know how.
I'm specifically sure I did that. But...
Folks, listen. If you're at the same stage as I am, just leave yours on. I'm doing it again at lightning speed. At that point, I'm not going to really kind of address questions on this level because I'm going to lose the majority of the class, right? It's not like I want to leave anybody out, but we're going to have to figure out a way to address it. Momentum is critical to learning, and so I'm going to have to create some of that. Guys, listen. Folks, by the way, if your computer came late or you have any reason why you couldn't practice, that's not your fault, right? But you have to concentrate with me. Don't rush through things. Don't think I'm full of it and giving you unnecessary steps. I've done this thousands of times. And if there's a short way that works, I'm going to show you. All right. Here's a new one.
I'm trying to get in the class through my computer.
That's great, Marilia. You're going to have to do that on your own right now. Okay. I'm opening up a new document. Again, if you're already ready, you got this down, just be patient. You don't have to do it again. Naftali, though, I do want to mention to you particularly, when you draw the object, for anything to do with classic tweening, for anything to do with it, you have to make the object a symbol yourself first. Yeah, the computer will try to help you, but just don't let it. Do it yourself. Select that object completely. Do not skip this step. Then control click on that object if you're on a Mac, right click if you're on Windows, on the artwork, on the drawing, and choose convert to symbol. I mean, it's a really easy step, provided you're not skipping it. You just draw it, select it, and then you right click or control click it. It's got to be in the library. You know, I'm sorry to sound dramatic, but I could tell people are skipping steps. I'm probably hypnotizing you. All right. Now, to turn on the tween, you have to know what a keyframe is. You know, we've been using keyframes for 6 weeks. So I'm going to a keyframe, and I'm going to tell it I want to classic tween. So that's not on stage. It's on the timeline. So I'm going to that black dot. That's the keyframe. I right click or control click, and I create classic tween. If you don't see that purple line, you don't see those little dashes, that means you better Command Z and do it again. You didn't do it right. Be thorough, please. You made your symbol, then you went to the timeline. Now, about the classic motion guide, yes, that is another layer. Yes, it is, right? It's just a train track. The train track is not the train, right? They're two separate things, and they live on two separate layers. So that's a weird one that we have not done before today. That's going to take some getting used to, right? So I'm going next to this layer's name where it says layer 1 right next to it. And I'm going to control click to get the menu. And it says add classic motion guide. Now, why am I doing it this way? It tells the layer that I'm on, it's about to be guided. It's telling the train I'm about to make a track for it. So it's going to create a very special kind of layer devoted to the current one. Add classic motion guide. Now, are you seeing that new layer? If you're not seeing that layer, you could tell me now, but not in 5 minutes. You could tell me now. All right. That's good. So here's the thing. We got to know the two layers apart. The lower layer, leave it alone. Please click this empty keyframe on the new layer. The most common mistake I've seen in the classroom is people drawing the guide on the wrong layer, the one with the classic tween. This is a whole separate object there to help. So you click the keyframe to be sure you know where you're drawing. All right, here we go. We're on the new keyframe. And I am getting now the pencil tool. Don't skip the step. Don't click down here, or here, or here, or here, or here. Only here. So you know exactly where on my guide layer. When? Frame 1. All right, now we're ready for the pencil tool. So you could either make a simple arc if this hasn't been working for you, or you could make a more complicated path for it to follow. I'm in trouble now because I see this nick here is going to give me trouble. I know that from experience. I'll see if it goes away when I smooth it. You know what? I don't like it. So I'm going to Command Z. I click that, make sure I'm going in the same place, then I'm going to try it again. I'm going slower. I'm using my touchpad. And it's got to be super smooth. If I have any doubts about the smoothness, I'll do it again, or I'll smooth it with the properties palette. So at this stage, I'm going to get the black arrow, and I'm going to double click it. That's just because I want to smooth it. This is an option. So I smooth it. The properties palette's the one that has that cool smoothing button at the bottom. We're going to use this a lot. All right. Now, that track is done. My biggest fear is people working on the wrong layer, right? We don't even want to touch that track again. You're just going to leave it. It's all about the lower layer. And by the way, if you like being super thorough, let's lock that layer. This way it's safe. You can't touch it even if you tried. Do you remember this feature? We didn't use it a lot, but we use it here and there. That's just locking that layer. I can't touch it. So the guide, the train track, is locked. We're about to use the original layer now. So one thing you should know about classic tweening, and I think everyone's got this idea, is a classic tween always has at least 2 keyframes. You know, the original location and another location, or the original size and a new size. So it could tween between them. We only have 1. So this is the car in the driveway. I'd like you to bring your playhead to the other end. I'm only 2 seconds deep because I didn't extend my timeline. I'm gonna have to do that later. It's all right. But I'm bringing the playhead over. And now all I do is grab the artwork. Please be sure you move the playhead. Otherwise you're trapped in your driveway. So I'm getting to the end and I'm gonna say, all right, in 2 seconds, please make it over here. If it snaps to the guide, that's a very hopeful sign. Now you should be able to rewind and play it. Now, other than, you know, skipping steps, the most common error is just a bad track. You know, there's not much you could do about it. You just have to do it over. If the track had nicks in it, you know. So I don't mind doing it again. But listen, folks, don't feel bad if this isn't working, as long as you're breathing, taking steps with me. But I would like to know. I need to hear from everybody. There's 6.
It didn't work again.
Got it. We're gonna have to look, Marilia. I can't help you until you start using Zoom on your computer.
Yeah, I was trying to do that, but you have to let me in.
I'll let you in. The doorbell didn't ring. But I can't keep stopping for you until you do that. And this is true for everybody. If I can't look, I can't help. I am now letting you in. Somebody else looks like they were locked out. All right. So Marilia, we're gonna wait either way. I'm gonna move forward, right? You and I, or you and Tiffany, are gonna have to go over this after you've solved your tech issues. Now listen, guys. So there's about 16 of us, right? There is a reactions button at the bottom if you don't have a physical thumb to use right now. Did it work or no? Please leave it up. I need to know.
Professor.
Give me a second, Naftali. Everybody, give me either a thumbs up or a thumbs down. If you can, and I you know, because 2/3 of you are not responding, I'm going to mark you absent.
It worked for me.
Right? I need to see it because I can't really count names or voices. Could you show me?
It didn't work for me.
Folks, what's happening today? I'm asking for participation and only 5 of you are actually responding. Or people are talking to me as individuals, like I'm sitting alone with you in a room. I'm trying to count something. Is this how you're going to vote? Because if you're going to vote like this, boy, are we in trouble.
My computer's moving a little slow, so it's still.
I see.
I'm
see.
still experimenting some things.
Gotcha. So listen, I'm going to assume since only 4 or 5 people are even showing me thumbs, that the other people just don't care one way or the other. So, but I did hear 3 or 4 people say it's not working through their voices mysteriously.
It worked.
It's
So,
not.
listen, guys, I want to warn everybody. I'm really not sure what's not working other than a rough track. I'm going to do this again and then we're going to break because I think a couple of us are going to really need a break. You know, this is a very small part of the class. So I'm going to literally have to cut my lesson down to half. And it's okay as long as we get to one juicy thing, you know, one cool thing. You know, we're still just in shape land, but I want to get to like the way an object actually would use this today, right? So, you know, I don't mind if it takes 2 weeks, but we got to move forward a little bit. So I don't know exactly what's going on. I'm going to do my best. Listen, also, the couple of you who are not able to screen share with me, you're going to have to solve this not on. You're going to have to figure out what you're doing and communicate with me when the whole class isn't waiting. You know, you want me to look and help. That's your part. All right. One more time, everybody. All right. New document. By the way, those of you who got this the first time, fantastic. And even though repetition's a little annoying, you're going to have to repeat it anyway, so why not? Right? I'm going to do exactly the same one. Step by step. We are now starting from scratch. Don't fuss with anything. People out in YouTube who are going to watch this, if you got it earlier, fast forward. All right, here we go. Rectangle. Or, you know, any shape. We're going to do this with much more involved shapes. Please make it a symbol. Get in the good habit of making it a symbol. The advanced animation teachers are all going to be dependent that you know how to make a symbol. Select it. Control click on the artwork. Exactly on the artwork, convert to symbol. Pretty sure everybody has this, right? I'm going to name it today, just to be even more thorough, square. It's a graphic symbol called square. I click OK. There it is in my library. I'm going back to the properties palette. Now, turning on classic tweening, I go to the keyframe, I control click it, I see many choices, and I choose create classic tween. You're on Windows, go to the keyframe and right click it. Don't accidentally slip and click something else. Has to be the keyframe. You're saying tween from here. So you're going to the keyframe and control click it. Let's say create classic tween. Ultra basic, right? I'm leaving that layer alone. The next thing is the new one. And I'll admit this is weird. So if you're looking at something or eating, stop. Over here is where I'm going to right click or control click. You know, there are other ways to do it, but there are even more steps. So this is the best, most efficient way. I hold down control and I click here. And you have to be sure you're choosing this one. I'm really afraid that people are slipping and choosing something similar. It's got to be only this one. Add classic motion guide. It's the friend of classic tweens. It's worth noticing what the icon looks like. If you've got any other icon, it broke. Delete the layer and do it again. So these two layers are going to work as a team. All right. Please go to frame 1 so that you know you're drawing at the beginning of time. Also make sure you're on the guide layer so you're not actually going to draw down here, which would break everything. You have to be sure you're in the right place at the right time. Now, I got to tell you something. I'm starting to wonder if the pencil tool is just not for you guys, for some of you guys. I am very tempted to do the pen tool, but I could just feel that's going to create all kinds of issues. So I'm going to try it again. Now, the pencil tool, I got to warn you, if I do this, it is not going to work. I could see just because I have experience, that's too weird. That's too weird. This is too weird. I'm going to Command Z. So I know that's hard, right? You start inside the object, right? Like in the middle of it. Do whatever you take to make it smooth. I'm keeping mine really easy this time. And at first, I'm going to look over that line to see if there's any obvious flaw. Well, this one doesn't have an obvious flaw. It would work. I'm not even going to smooth it. All right. Now, believe it or not, that's it for the guide. So I'm going to lock it. Now, here's the thing. You're sitting at a train station. The track goes from Brooklyn to Manhattan, but the train refuses to move. That's where we're at right now. Brooklyn here, Manhattan's here, but the train just has not moved. And how do I know that? The Tween's got one keyframe. How could it have moved? Right? This just represents it sitting in the corner. So you're going to that lower layer, and you're going to bring the playhead over. I could stop anywhere I want, but I'd like you to go to the end. And move this object. So I'm going to have to get the black arrow, and I'm going to move this object. Don't move the guide. Train tracks don't move. Now it should snap. And if it did snap, you could play it now. I have to be very frank. No teacher could really repeat something 20 times and keep a class going. You know, I could see some people just arrived. You're going to really need to watch the YouTube video, right? This isn't that complex, but it is a bit. All right. Now, I think we're going to need a break. I just mentioned a couple quick things at this stage. One, when you publish the movie as a GIF or as a video, or even as a SWIFT, the kind of preview file we've been doing occasionally, no one else can see the guide, right? So if you want to try it, I'm on my Mac. I'm going to do Command, hold it down, and tap Return. If you're on Windows, you could hold down Control and tap Enter. So I'm going to inside here, just to see. So this is what my audience is going to see. They're not going to know the trick. You know, that guy hits a baseball out of the park. This is how I'm going to do it, up in the air on a curve. Or you could just hide the guide layer to imitate it. Still on though. I want to tell you, since a couple people are having issues, but I can't look on their computers with them. So what's my guess? You know, if they've been following steps, my guess is it's the track. In the class, I've always seen the most earnest, intelligent, talented student not getting it because the track is rickety. You know, they got a shaky hand or whatever. So I'm going to show you one thing before the break, and you could watch or join me, but this one's not going to be, I'm not going to troubleshoot this one, right? Because it'll delay us way too much. But I just want to show you an option. First thing I got to check is, where is my pen tool? Which isn't currently out. I'm going to go to my window menu and check on something quickly because I want to just show you.
You can get it from the three dots that are above the color.
Right. I know. I wanted to check something first, though. I want to see what workspace I'm in to get to know it. This says Essentials, and it's interesting to me that Essentials is not including the pen tool anymore. I think in the future, I might try Classic. I do believe I recommended that some earlier week and just sort of forgot about it. I don't want to make a big speech about it, but the window menu has this thing called Workspaces. And these are just different arrangements of the same tools. So, you know, Classic is the old school one, and it's got all the traditional tools there. So I'm just going to do it that way. I'm opening up a new document, though. So the first steps are the same. Ooh, everything just moved around. Give me a second here. I didn't expect that to go to the top. I don't want that. Oh, Lord. Some days are harder than others. I'm just going to leave it like this for now. Sorry, guys. Maybe I should have just done it with the 3 dots. All right, in any case, here's the rectangle. You know, our simple drawing. I'm selecting it. I'm making my symbol. This is not new. I'm turning on the tween now. I'm very concerned about this. You know, the amount of troubles we had with this. I'm going to the first keyframe and I'm turning on the tween. That's all. Now I'm making my guide. So I'm telling this layer to be guided. I'm coming right next to the name and I'm going to right click or control click to get this feature. Now, I have to admit, yeah, the guide is a little controversial. The thing about the pen tool is, with the pen tool, I would do it this way. I'd press and drag. This little line that I'm dragging is telling it I'm about to make a curve and a big one. And I'd come all the way here and press and drag from here. And that makes a very smooth curve, but I really didn't want to get involved in a pen tool lesson. But since I stuck my neck out, here's the pen tool. One presses and drags to make a curve. They come over here and then they press and drag again. And if they don't like it, they switch to the white arrow and click an anchor. So again, this is a bit much really for right now. But you know, this is what people often use for perfect curves. So I'm just bringing it up. So right now, I have to say, if I have a guide, and it doesn't matter too much what I made it with, as long as it's pretty smooth, it's about the tweening end. And this is the same logic as earlier today. We did a zigzag, something moved in a V shape. We're doing this for weeks. There's got to be another keyframe. So I go down the timeline. I'm looking at that lower layer there. The box is on the left, and I'm coming over here, and I'm going to tell it to be on the right. So once I select my symbol on stage, this instance of my symbol, I could move it. And by the way, I could have dropped it anywhere on that guide. You know, but in that case, it would just go that far. You know, so it's all about where I put it on my guide.
Well, Professor, is it okay if I show you something from my screen?
Absolutely, please do. I'm going to stop my screen share. Go ahead.
Here. You see, one of the things I have is that when sorry.
I see the mistake already.
No, wait, hold on. There.
Okay. Oh my God, that's never going to work. That path.
No, wait, no, hold on. No, it's because it worked. That was the thing. Wait,
well, let's try something. Can you go to frame 1? Just bring the playhead to frame 1, or get yourself back to frame 1. Now, where do you want that object to start, really? This is random. I'm impressed.
Yeah, I wanted to show you something because this shape worked. Like I just started like scribbling just to see if it worked, and it did.
You got it to work.
And then this one, which was made with the pen tool, I tried to do it, but it would just go directly like that.
Well, let me show you something about your pen tool one. Can you go back to frame 1? Excellent. You see how that your red circle is on the guide? It's locked to the guide. That's a good sign. Can you go to the opposite end of the timeline? Go to the end. And that looks like it's locked also, right? So there's got to be it's funny that the pen tool's disagreeing. I want you to do something with me. Yeah. Stay where you are on the timeline, but I'd like you to grab the red circle and bring it closer to the beginning of the track. Not the very beginning, but yeah, like there. Yeah, perfect. Right there. Let's play it now. All right. So since that worked, I'd like you to take it a little, go to that exactly past that. Let's see if that's the problem. So once it goes off the track, it means it didn't like something about the sharp turn you took with the pen tool. Right? The turn. Imagine a truck trying to take a sharp turn on a tiny country road. It's going to go off the track. Oh, so that's exactly what happened. So even though you do it with the pen tool, what you're asking it to do is not possible for that object.
Gotcha. I must have like left a little space like around.
Yeah, or those two lines are touching and it can't figure out what to do. Can't tell that it's a turn. You know, you see those two anchors? They're so close to each other. Yeah, just pull on one of them with the white arrow. So see, there's something weird going on there. It's hard to tell what's happening, right? There was some extra kind of click and it doesn't understand the road. So, you know, you try it again. If you got the pen tool, just try it again, but try it simpler. It's never going to work because it doesn't know whether to turn right or turn left.
Oh, yeah.
Into that line.
Yeah, I was just experimenting a bit with that one as well.
You know something, I really like the way you look at things, and I'm glad that we shared it. Can you turn off the screen share?
Okay.
You know, Joseph, I want to say something about your system of learning that I advocate. You do something simple once or twice. If it works, you do something complicated to see if that works. That makes perfect sense to me because you just learned what the limits are. You know, if the track is in any way overly complicated, you just can't do it. It likes wide turns, you know, or clean angles. It doesn't like gobbledygook. And even your scribble didn't really work. It just looked like it worked. Only half the scribble worked.
No, it did work. It worked up until the end. I don't know why it.
Right.
No,
Because once the scribble gets to a complicated place and if it doesn't recognize it, it'll just go off the road. You know, it ignores the path. What hikers call cross country. You're just ignoring it. So you're doing it right. All I'm saying is I would practice with simple, methodical types of things. Here, I got a great idea. Do you guys have it in you for one more thing before a break? I think I have something I'd like to try. And we're going to come back and try something far more interesting together. Let's try this. I'm hoping everyone can get the pen tool with me, though. So let's try this out, right? I'm going to screen share.
Yeah, I just did another scribble and it worked right there, right when no one's looking.
You know what, Joe? Let it go. Right? I want to try something else. Guys, everybody, just join me. Open a new document, please. Okay. Make sure you can see what you're doing. Make your object and convert the symbol, please. All right, I'm not going to break that down again because we did it too many times. Then turn on the tween. All right, I'm trying to get to the part about the guide, though. I'm going to leave it. 24 frames is fine. Symbol, proper tween. Now's that odd part of asking for the guide. I'm coming again, right next to the layer name. Control click, add classic motion guide. About the pen tool, we could try it without curves. Now, if you can't find the pen tool, one person suggested to click these 3 dots because the pen tool would be here. You'd have to drag it onto the toolbar and click the 3 dots to put it away. If you ever drag any tool on, just be careful where you put it. Put it between tools, not on top of a tool. I could always drag it back. So if your pen tool's not out, you click these 3 dots to get the extra tools, some cool stuff here. Drag it between tools and it'll be part of your toolbar from then on. Thing about the pen tool is, what if we made a guide that didn't have curves at all? Now that's easier. But the first thing one has to do is this. Make sure you're on the correct keyframe. The most common mistake is drawing down here. It has to be on the guide layer. I got my pen tool. Look what I'm going to do. I'm going to click in the middle of this object. I'm not going to press and drag. I'm just going to click. And I'm going to click. And all I'm going to do is make sure that I don't have, you know, real confusion going on. This is never going to work. So I'm keeping it super duper clean. This is my path. Click, 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 click. Now that could not confuse this object. It's smooth as can be. The only thing left for me to do is finish my tween. But this tool acts kind of weird when you're done with it. So I'm going to go back and click on the black arrow. Get out of the pen tool. So if you look at my timeline, the only thing that's left to deal with is that the object's still sitting in the corner. There are no more keyframes. There's no motion. At this particular stage, I would come to the end with my black arrow. I'll drag the object anywhere I want. And it's going to go as far as I take it. I want it here. You know, I got to tell you something. I've been teaching this for years, and I've never had this much trouble. And I think part of the problem is like just can't walk over. I really do like this forum, but that is the limit, really. If anyone is finding this crazy easy, your patience must be tried. It's not always like this, right? And we'll all get up to speed, right? I don't know if that helped at all. Oh, good. Got a little positive feedback there. Very helpful, Callista. I like to know.
Oh, is this with the pencil or with the pen?
And
Okay.
All right. It's 5 to 11. We're going to take a break. Let's come back at a quarter after 11, at 11:15, right? Don't be late. If you're late, I'm not repeating anything, right? Because it's just not fair to everyone else. 11:15, I am starting again, right? We're going to make a leaf fall in the wind.
yay.
I hope so, Tiffany. I'm worried. Like we're just not having luck with curves. Like I really could have spent a whole class teaching the pencil, but I only get 15 classes. You know what I mean? So, really, I'm convinced part of the problems of people's paths just having little potholes in the road that they're not seeing, but I don't know. Look, let's take a break. We'll all clear our minds. We'll come back with some fresh energy. We'll move forward, right? 11:15, guys. I'm going to stop recording. Tiffany, don't let me continue when we come back without recording, okay? I got a bad track record of that.
You should plug in your computer. It's dying.
You're so. How do I ever teach without you? I really don't know. All right. I'm going to go plug it in. I'll see you all at 11:15. Don't be late, okay? I don't want to turn into this teacher. Ah! See you in 11:15. All right. Hello, everybody. I'm trying to figure out why that was so grueling. This is far from the most complicated thing. So I'm going to be thinking about a lot over the weekend to figure out like how I could be clearer or more helpful because it's week 6, and if we're going to get to people walking, and talking, then I'm gonna have to figure out a different road. I want to say something, and I don't want anyone to feel judged because I'm not really talking to any individual. I'm just saying in general. If you had a friend who went to school for brain surgery and then came to your house and complained, "Oh man, those classes are just too hard," what would you say? Would you say, "Well, the teacher should make it easier"? That person wants to be a brain surgeon. You'd probably say, well, keep trying. And then if a little down the road, you'd say, maybe you're not for brain surgery. Maybe it's not for you. It is really difficult. It just is difficult. Well, luckily, this is not brain surgery. So my little analogy doesn't go that far. But by the end of this semester, I think some of you are going to reanalyze this. And some of you are going to be like, you know what? I was pretty good. Had some tough times, but by and large, I was pretty good. And I do love this. So you're going to tough it. It gets easier. That's for sure. It gets a lot easier. But if you figured like every step of the way, I couldn't do it, you might be brilliant, but this might not be the area. I really don't know. And I can't say, I really can't say. But one thing we all do as best as possible is try to create a work environment that's the most conducive to learning as possible. It's not always up to you. If your family's really noisy, what can you do? If your internet stinks, what can you do? That happened to me also. So, if you can't show the teacher your work, you're going to have to figure out how you can, not during class time because it isn't fair. So I really don't know what all the obstacles were today. I have to tell you, I've had probably somewhere between 500 and 1,000 students succeed at this, which I've been teaching for at least 15, possibly 20 years. So I got to figure out what it is. Admittedly, Zoom is making it a little harder. So I'm debating if we could actually pull off the next project, and I think I want to try it. Um, we got very different levels of success in this room. I would say a third of you finding it easy.
Like
A third of,
Professor, for me,
yeah,
it's
Zach.
my computer is running really slow
Ah,
today. So like when I was trying to do it, it was moving
like a
but
snail.
you guys were always a step ahead of me when I was trying to do. I was still stuck on one thing. My computer was like loading into.
Really?
Yeah.
Can I ask you about it? I'm just sort of curious. What kind of computer is it?
I have a MacBook Pro.
Oh, good. How old is it?
I think it's like 2 years old, 3 years old.
Oh my God, that should be. Do you think? So, do you have any clue what you think is slowing the machine down?
I don't even know because it's been doing that for my other classes too. Like it's been like really slow.
So let me ask you something. When you're not online, like, does the computer behave, or is it only when you're on the internet?
I would say if I'm really doing anything on my computer, like if I'm editing, if I'm like doing homework, after a certain amount of time, it will start to get really slow and like it will start to
So I got a couple things I want to ask you quickly because it's others might share the problem. When you say editing, do you mean video editing?
like photo editing, video editing, stuff like
All the
that.
heavy stuff.
Yeah.
That stuff takes a lot out of a computer. So I want to say a couple bits of advice to you. One, you got a really good computer, and it's a young computer. So that thing should be behaving. It really should be. So we got to do a couple things. One thing I got to tell you is a lot of folks these days never shut their computer off. Honestly, I only shut mine off every couple of weeks. And I know better. I don't have any excuse. But if you shut that computer off, I mean shut down, flat out shut down and start back, watch it behave twice as fast. When was the last time you shut it down?
Last night, but before that, I always put it on sleep. Always put it on sleep.
Sleep's not the same. So Zach, I want you to be really clear. Sleep won't help at all. Shutting down erases the RAM, right? And that's like your immediate memory, your short-term memory on the computer. It erases it, it cleans it out and starts it over. So a full shutdown. I'm talking about, am I screen sharing? No, give me a second here. I'm talking about shut down from the Apple menu. I am definitely not saying sleep or restart. I'm talking about flat out shut down. You're going to do a hard reset, start back up. I would say the chances are at least 50% that that's going to fix it. If that doesn't fix it, the next most likely problem is there's too much stuff stored on your computer. That there's too many files, large videos, massive Photoshop files. Your computer is just carrying too much weight to behave, in which case, a person would find that stuff, either trash it, completely, or move it on to separate drives of some sort, portable drives or something like that. But those are the most common problems. One, the easy road is shut down and start over. Like really, we'd all be wise with work as intense as this to do that every day. But if not, every couple of days. Sounds, sleep doesn't count at all, not even a little. It won't clean, it won't help anything other than use less electricity, as far as I know. So I don't know. Zach, let me know if your computer behaves after you have a chance to do that stuff,
Okay, I will.
But gotta say, so that could be a common problem in here. I know in the classroom, even in the classroom that happens. A couple of machines are misbehaving and I gotta scramble. So anyway, I'm gonna be brave right now and try something a little bit more interesting with the same techniques. So even if you had mixed success before the break, this might be the sweet spot. I do want to just throw in one more thing about classic motion guides. It's debatable how often you're going to need them. I use them, but I would say a lot of stuff I do doesn't need them at all. Make someone talk or walk, I don't need it. To make something blow in the wind, I'm probably going to need it. So we're actually going to do something that relates to wind right now. So again, folks, listen, if you're hurrying through things and they're not working, you know what you need to do. You need to slow down. If you're chatting with friends during my class and things aren't working, you know what you need to do. I had a student keep his computer his phone under the desk so he could watch cartoons during class. And he was not only a failing student, he was a failing person. because he wasn't doing what he knew he needed to do. Some of you guys are great students, right? And so you could probably teach how to learn. I wish you, that might be a good thing. All right, in any case, how many of you guys got the assets already? You know, if you didn't, we need to get them now, right? We're going to use one of them, right? So if you didn't get the assets, I'm going to get them right now. If those people who have not come back from the break, they're going to watch the video. I'm not going to bore you with repeating it beyond this. So if you didn't get today's assets, you got to get back to the website. If you're on the handout, you'll see red and then get our assets. You'll click the blue link. If you're not on the handout, you're on the home page. You'll go to our menu and go to Class 6 assets. It's exactly the same. Now, I'm only going to repeat this because people sometimes have slow computers or bad internet, or they tried to come to class on time and Zoom would not connect, all that kind of stuff. In the classroom, I would never repeat this many times. I'm going to do it once more today. So I'm going to Class 6 assets and it downloads. Then if I'm on a Mac, I click right on where it says classicassets.zip. It'll get me to download and it unzips it. You want a folder. If you're on Windows, after you download it, find your way to downloads, find the zip, and extract the folder. That's going to be extract all or something like that. You're going to have to right click it on Windows. Your menu will say extract. Macs don't do that. And until you get the folder. Once you have a real folder, that's what we're going to use. Put it wherever you want, and we're going to use it. I already have one on the desktop, so I'm going to use that. Folks, I'm moving forward now, no matter what. If for any reason you got a slow start after the break, you're going to have to lean on the YouTube video. Thank God we have YouTube videos. That helps. I want to open the one marked number 1, Leaf Moves Project. So all you got to do is double click it. And at first, it's not going to look like much, but it's kind of big. So we want to see the whole stage. You know, this version of Animate upgraded this very simple feature here that currently says 100%. It's got little arrows on the left and a big one on the right. If you go to show all, it's supposed to show you the stage and everything near the stage. That's not working on this version. But I don't know why. But show frame does. But I want to show you what happens if you back up. You'll see that I left a bit of artwork above the stage. So I want you to get to a comfortable size where you could see both the leaf and the stage. So I think I'm going to get my hand tool and just drag this down a little bit. I think I'm going to back up just a little bit more. So you really need to get comfortable for this. We are going to do more classic motion guides, but this time this leaf is going to fall. Now I got to say something about this. It's going to have to twist a few times. Can you imagine a leaf in the wind? You know, we're just about that time of year, right? We're going to be seeing it all over the place. And they always loop to loop on the way to the ground. The oldest leaf on the branch, or the least healthy leaf on the branch, falls off when a breeze strong enough comes and it does its thing. And if the branch next to it falls an instant later, it follows the same track. It's the same wind that knocked it off. It might come right after it and then the leaf follows it. I'd like to do that. I'd like to have 3 or 4 leaves. Now, the thing is, if you look at it, this leaf is not in the library yet. So then we're going to have to start there. Here's the empty library. All right. So with your black arrow, select that whole leaf. Don't just click it because the stem will be separated. So select the whole leaf and convert to symbol. I'm definitely naming this one. I'm going to call it leaf. And it is a graphic symbol. You got to trust me and not skip this step. Click OK. It's in the library. I'm going to click right over to the properties palette because I'm not going to need the library anymore. Now, if you look at the timeline, there's only one layer. It's called leaf 1. That green is not a layer. It's just this feature. Right? So it doesn't have a layer of its own. That background can't be tweened. You know, later if we wanted, we could add a better background, picture of the forest or whatever. But there's only one layer to deal with. All right. So before we move forward, right, you have to be sure you made this symbol, right? If you ask me in a few minutes, do I need to make a symbol? You're going to see my head explode. I'm going to look like a horror movie. All right. Please select it, make a symbol. All right. Now, what we want is a motion guide coming down from the leaf. Now, this would be very complex with the pen tool. We really have no choice but to make the pencil tool behave. So back to the pencil tool. And the smooth mode options still on at the bottom, which is pretty cool. And I want to remind you, if you start here, it won't work. You have to start in the middle of the leaf, roughly. And go slowly. You see, I already got one nick. I could see it from here. I'm just going to undo it because that wasn't smooth enough. And I don't mind if I have to do this a bunch of times. Hey, by the way, here's a secret that might help it be smoother. Zoom even further back. This way your finger doesn't have to move as far. Now, what I would like the most would be this. I want you to leave enough room after your little loop-de-loops so that it could flatten out as the leaf hits the ground. Now, that's what I'd want. So, you know, one cool trick that helps making smooth lines with the pencil tool is to just zoom out. Just because your hand or your finger, if you're using a touchpad, has less to do. Yeah, mine's looking pretty darn smooth, right? But I'm going to smooth it out a little bit more. I'm going to get in the black arrow, and I'm going to make sure to select the whole thing. I better double click it. The bottom of the properties palette lets me smooth even more. I'm going to click it. I'm watching to see what happens, and it's getting a little pointy here. That's not so smooth. I'm going to back up a bit. Command Z. I think I'm good. Now, if you think that just looks funky. Now, Joseph, for example, and you're doing very well, but if this is too complicated, there's too many chances for error. For example, if a car was coming down here, how would it know to go this way and not go the other way? You know, and you know, the truth of it is, Animate could figure that out, provided this line seems to prevail. But if it's too complicated and it is lefts and rights, it's going to make random choices. So I wouldn't let those loops get too small. If you have to do it again, delete it. Oh, your teacher made a mistake. Oh my God, do I need a break? Come on, Tiffany, you know what I did.
You didn't make a guide layer.
I didn't make a guide layer. Oh man, that's because I got judgy. So fate kicked my. Anyway, all right. I'm gonna have to Command Z. Guys, I'm sorry. You probably have to do the same. The leaf needs its own layer, right? The tweened object always has to have its own layer. So I better back up. Command Z, guys. That's your teacher's fault. I'm getting comfortable again. Remember, I was saying it's easier, so I am going to zoom back a lot. All right. By the way, I could make the symbol at any point. I could turn on the tween at any point, but let's go in the order we got used to since I made a mistake anyhow. Make sure that your object's still a symbol. By the way, now you click it. If you see a blue box around it, you're good. See the little dots? It means you Command Z too far, make a symbol. So this is a symbol. I see the blue box around it. I'm good. All right. Let's make that guide layer. So again, the way we kept doing it before the break was we went to the guided object layer. right? That's this layer right now. And I'm going to control click just next to where it says leaf 1 in that little gap. I'm on a Mac, so I have to hold down control for this. Windows has got the cool right click. And you see your Add Classic Motion Guide. So I've got 2 layers. Now, notice if I draw now, it looks like I'm going to draw on the wrong layer again because that keyframe's highlighted. So I keep on saying, look at your keyframes, get to be good friends with your keyframes, right? This would be another way to make the same mistake. I'm just going to click this one. It's on the right layer. I know where it's going. This is the part where I'd probably zoom back just to make it easier. I am using a touchpad. So I'm going to just back up because it's easier. That's the only reason. Whoa, that just went off on its own. All right. You click the keyframe on the guide layer. And again, if you came late after the break and missed it, I'm not going to be mean, but you're going to have to watch the video. I can't repeat it. I'm going back to the pencil tool. And here I go. Starting in the middle of the leaf. I'm making fairly wide loops. And then it's going to come down to the floor about there. That might take a few tries. I don't know. And 1 or 2 you may be using a tablet. Tablets love the pencil tool. Really do. You know, that I'll say. Or, I don't know. I never used one of those trackballs. That would be interesting to try. So try it a couple times if you need to. I'm delaying so that everyone has a chance to make a smooth guide. All right. Now, one thing you could check before we go any further, you know, just to increase likelihood of success, is the guide layer should have a black keyframe in it. And in fact, if I hide the layer, I should see the guide hide. The lower layer should also have a keyframe in it. And if I hide that layer, I should see the leaf disappear. Now I know I'm organized. There's no doubt. You know, I'm good. So what's left now are the same steps that tweens always have. How long do I want my timeline to be? Then I'm going to do some F5 stuff in a minute. How long do I want it to be? I'll have to turn on my tween, you know, and I'm going to have to move that object. So if you got your layers ready and your symbol ready, you're good. Let's give ourselves a longer timeline. So I'm coming out here all the way to the 3-second mark. And F5 is the one we use when we want to extend the timeline. And I want both layers to be the same length. Nothing fancy yet. I just prepared my guide, my train track. I prepared my art. The leaf is a symbol, right? I got 2 layers that are 3 seconds long, about 70. If I was being exact, that would be 72 frames, but about 70, right? Now, all that's left is for me to get busy with the tween. That's literally it. It's basically the same steps at this stage as any of the classic tweens. Now, Jacob, I've given you a second chance today. How do I turn on the classic tween?
Turn on the classic tween by inserting the keyframe and right clicking.
Well, we already have the keyframe, but you score anyway. We don't have to insert it. We just go to it. He's right though. If it's Windows, you right click it. If it's Mac, you control click it. Either way, we want that little menu that shows up, right? So I'm going to the keyframe. Remember, it's the lower layer, right? Train tracks don't tween because they don't go anywhere. Train track just stays still. It's the train that moves. So I'm going to the lower layer and I'm control clicking to ask for my classic tween. Once you see that purple line, we know we're pretty close. Now, yes, to finish the tween, it is going to need another keyframe, right? And the way we've been doing it, which is the popular way right now, is we're moving the playhead down the timeline. Because at the end, I want that leaf on the ground. So at the beginning, it's coming from the air, but at the end, it's going to be on the ground. So I'm just moving over to the end, you know, 3 seconds deep or whatever it is. Oh, I didn't get to the end. Here we go. Here's the end, right? And I get my black arrow and I simply drag the leaf. Now that's a good start. It's going to get a lot better if it works at this stage. Now, I tell you what I'm going to do to be reasonable, right? I'm going to limit myself to one repeat, right? I'm going to just do it one more time, right? That seems fair, right? It's newish, but 3, 4, 5 times I just can't do. And for the rest of my life, I want to videotape every class because it's so comforting to know people could watch as much as they need. All right, so if yours is already working, please don't redo it. You're fine, right? I'm going to go to the file menu up here and use this feature called revert, getting back to the original. All right, I'm going to back up and I'm just repeating everything. Well, first step with the classic tween is always make your artwork into symbols. Now, the way I did it today was I went right away to the guide layer, and that's fine. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to make my guide by coming to the Leaf 1 layer, right-clicking or control-clicking on a Mac. I'm going to say Add Classic Motion Guide. That creates that specialized layer that's going to control the leaf. So I got a symbol. I got my 2 layers, right? Their icons look correct. I'm going to extend the timeline now because I didn't do it before. So I'm going to go out to 3 seconds and F5 each layer. Right? I'm ready to get busy with the tweening, right? So it's always about finding the correct keyframe. And I'm saying tween from here. So I'm going to this keyframe and say, okay, classic tween from this moment of this layer on. So I'm going to that one, that black keyframe. The guide layer, I don't even have a guide on yet. And I'm turning on my classic tween. So one thing you might be picking up on is you can go in slightly different orders. There are a few things that really should be done right away, like making that leaf into a symbol. So I got a tween turned on, the engine's running, but it's still sitting there. So I better make my guide. I have the guide layer, but I didn't draw it, right? And then I'm going to finish that tween up. When you're ready to make the guide, and I know I'm repeating this particular element a lot, go to the keyframe. You know, and one reason I keep repeating that is imagine you're working on a 1 hour long movie. There's going to be keyframes all over the place and many, many, many layers. So you're going to have to stay oriented, know where and when. So, you know, look at the correct layer, click the correct keyframe. So this is where I want to draw now. So I click the keyframe, the only keyframe on that guide layer. And now it's pencil tool time. I'm going to back up a little more and get my pencil. Pencil, where'd you go? There you are. And we know we want it on smooth mode. So I'm hoping 1 loop is fine. I'm hoping for 2, and then I want it to flatten out a little. So that's what I'm aiming for. There's 1, there's 2, and I'm coming down. And it is a lot easier on that small stage. And I'm looking for any, this is a little bumpy, but I don't see any like flat out chunks taken out of it. Because that won't work, and they're hard to fix. So it's okay if you have to Command Z and redo that. If it looks good to you, check that you have a black keyframe on both those layers. Only because it's so common to accidentally draw on one. I did it, and it is the most common error. if you're thinking, you know, my guide looks pretty good, it's just not like perfect, maybe you should smooth it, you know, select the whole thing with the black arrow so that this shows up. Mine's looking pretty good, so I think I'm going to leave it the way I had it. So the reason it wouldn't work yet if I played it is there's only one keyframe on the tweened layer. I need to say go from here to here. I want to remind you that I could actually make my new keyframes anywhere, right? So don't do this, right? I just want to prove it. So I went a very brief distance in time, and I didn't even go through the whole guide. So that's going to work, though. It's just not what I wanted, so I'm going to Command Z it. I want to go to the end. So I bring the playhead to the end. Now I'm going to bring that guide to that leaf to the floor. I should be able to play it. Now, if it didn't work, what you'll usually see is the leaf falls straight down. It's just like, it goes from the first keyframe to the last, but like a regular tween. It just ignores the guide. And if that's happening, you might have done all the right steps, but the guide itself might be bumpy, right? So look, guys, I want to say that participation is essential to my class. And, you know, I don't get the little reactions thing on the bottom of my toolbar, but you all have it, don't you, on the bottom? You know, where the share button is and the, you do. Could you tell me if it's working right now, right away? Just go to reactions, show me. So I got 5 people. I got 1, it's a little working. I like the halfway. Some clapping even. All right, it's improving.
It just goes straight for me.
It doesn't go straight? So that
Yeah,
means
it
the
does.
side's probably broken. Jacob, could you screen share with me? I'm going to turn my screen share off.
Okay.
Hey, wait a second. Yeah, okay. All right, now you screen share. Because I got a hunch. All right. So I'm thinking that there's probably, I see a couple nicks in that track. So what we're going to do is redraw it. Oh, I see 2 mistakes. All right. Could you, do you know how to bring your timeline up a little higher? Do you know how to do that?
Like this?
Yeah, like that, exactly. Perfect. A little, try
Yeah,
that
it's just,
again.
it's a little weird.
It's acting weird. I see that. There you go. Let's stop for a minute. Hey, could you go to the layers? I want you to look at the icon. Do you see how that icon looks like a letter T to the left of the word guide? Do you see that?
This one?
Yeah,
The,
do you
like,
see
you mean
the
like the
left of the
pickaxe?
G? To
Yeah.
the left of the G. I just want you to look. Don't click anything.
Okay.
That's the wrong symbol.
Oh.
Right? So you chose the wrong guide. I want to tell you how to fix it. Could you double click that symbol? Double click it. Now
Okay.
look at these choices. You have guide, right? And not motion guide. Doesn't look like it's going to let us fix it. That's too bad. So we're going to have to click cancel. Just click cancel.
Mhm.
I want you to delete that layer. So there's a little trash can just above your layer. There you go, right? All right, now right click over there again. Choose. See, you see the mistake, right? They're right next to each other, right? Choose classic motion guide. Now you got it.
Ah, okay.
Ah, so
I'm
now make
gonna,
yourself comfortable and draw it again.
all right, hold on. Use the pencil tool.
You're gonna have to see the whole stage. You might want to zoom back a bit. That's good.
Yeah.
I know it's a little squirrely. All right, now before you draw though, yeah, you could zoom back even more. I know you're at 35%, but I think you're good now. Let's stop for a minute.
Okay.
I just want you to look at your layers to notice that you're on the lower layer now, right?
Mhm.
So I want you to click that keyframe above, exactly. Just click
This
that.
one?
That's right. Because that's where you're drawing the guide.
Okay.
Now draw your guide. So start on the leaf, right? Nicely done. Now that looks pretty good, but we need to do a couple little things. You might need to smooth it, exactly. Double click that and go to your properties palette.
Yeah, this one.
Yeah, click it a couple times. That might be smooth enough. Let's give it a shot. The only
All right.
thing, because we went in a kind of kooky order, is where that second leaf is. Could you bring the playhead to the end? Because remember, we still have that leaf there. And yeah, but all the way to the end. You were right. Stop right there. Grab that leaf. Make sure it's on the guide. It looks like it is. You're going to be good at this. You're making all the right moves. Let's play it. Let's see if it works. You just dragged it off the guide. I saw you move it. Drag it back on the guide.
Let me undo that for a sec.
There you go.
So
Listen, I
works.
want to say a few things to everybody. That was really helpful. You know, I think other people are probably making the wrong kind of guide. It has to say classic motion guide. Some people might be dragging their leaf off of the train track, right? That's what happened only a moment ago. But now you got it.
Okay.
All right, if you'd stop your share, I'm going to start sharing again.
All right, I'll stop it now.
That was very helpful. I want to ask you guys before I move forward, and I really, really don't mind it. In fact, I'd like it. Does anyone want to show me what they've got? Maybe you need a hand or.
There we go. That's good. Sorry.
Anybody want to, need a hand, want me to look? No? So listen, if it's working, right, I want to share something with you, right? We get to do all kinds of cool things once it works. Like imagine that leaf in the real world. Wouldn't the leaf be turning around in the wind? It wouldn't be facing you like that. It'd be going, instead of this, it would be going, whoa, like that. And can we imitate that even in a 2D program like this? We can. So I want you to join me on this, if at all possible. If not, watch, take notes, do what you can to get a grasp of it, So I'm going to screen share again. Now, I don't need to be so far away anymore. So I'm going to zoom in a bit. And I want to make a suggestion. When my leaf comes down and it makes that first loop, it looks too flat. I think while it's turning here, it would probably be turning physically in the wind, flattening, going like that, perhaps. Now, how would I do it? If there's no keyframe here, I can't change this one leaf. That means I have to force a keyframe right here. Now, if you want to join me, you can. Bring your player to a part where you'd like to try it. And if you have loops similar to mine or like Jacob's or something like that, just get your playhead over to it's in the middle of a loop. This is going to be the return of F6. Now, F6 does two different things depending on the situation, right? If there's no tween, F6 means copy the last keyframe. So people use it for frame by frame animations, and that's when we were using it the most. But if you F6 in a tween, it'll take that one moment, it won't hurt it, it'll just create a keyframe for it so that there's artwork there that can be changed. So this is what I mean by that. If I want this to rotate or shrink, I'll click in that moment on the correct layer, the leaf layer, and then I F6. Now, if it worked, you're going to see a black dot there, a new keyframe. So it didn't change anything, but what it does is it's going to allow me to manipulate this one leaf, this one instance of my symbol. So you click in the moment you want, and then you F6. That is the same as right-clicking and saying insert keyframe. But I prefer F6. All right. Now to make it feel like it's turning, I'm going to get the transform tool. Well, one thing I could do would be just to rotate it. And that's going to produce this. It's already more believable, just with that little rotation. But I want to do more than that. So I'm going to go back to the same keyframe. So the transform tool lets you rotate. but it also lets you scale. So watch this. If I really, really squeeze it, this is how it's going to look. In the wind, so I'm looking across it, and the wind's going to bring it back, and then I'll see it full size. So here's the animation. Now, if that worked, great. If it didn't, no problem. We're going to do it again, but I'm not going to repeat it. I'm going to go further. After that, I'd like you to go further. And even if yours didn't work, I choose a different spot. So let's say I wanted something to happen here. Again, you can't manipulate an object, scale, rotation, tint, brightness, transparency. You can't do any of those things unless it owns a keyframe. So I'm going to force one. I'm going to click right there, and I'm going to F6 to turn that moment into a keyframe. You know, the guide is done. I'm never going to touch it again. It's just finished. So I chose this moment that I think deserves some attention. And what do I want to do? I think I'm going to flatten this one out also. Gives it that look like it's going to turn, right? I might make it smaller. That'll make it feel like it blew back in space a little bit, a little further away from us. And I could also rotate it. This is what it's going to look like. And again, if you don't like any of the decisions you made, go to the same keyframe or just Command Z. And then try it again. I'm going to zoom in a bit this time. What do I really want? Yeah, flattening thing I did once. I'm going to change its angle. Maybe I'll flatten it a little bit. By the way, this is another very cool feature. Same tool, by the way. If I go between these handles, this is called skew. It also gives it a very space-oriented feeling, spatial. It's in space. I just don't want it to feel large, so I'm going to keep manipulating it. So far, this is what I've got. Now it's getting really believable in the air. It's not as good in the rest of it because I haven't gotten there yet. So I got to figure out what I want it to do. The idea is I want it to feel like it's on the breeze. Now, I'm going to do some more of that, but feel free to interrupt me. You know, if you want to say something or ask something, turn on your mic, shout it out, you know. So what I'm doing is I'm starting at the beginning and I'm scrubbing the playhead. That means I'm dragging the playhead and, you know, watching it at my own pace to see if I still like it. Anytime I make the leaf smaller, it's going to feel like it moved away from the viewer. Anytime I make it bigger, it's going to feel like it got closer to the viewer. What would that be like? 1 minute. Yes.
Can I interrupt you for a minute?
Guys, I do apologize. Yes.
I dropped an entire container of bleach over in
Okay.
in the room that the boiler is in. Not exposed.
Not good. Not good.
It fell on the floor and then the pop just came out.
I mean, the boiler's lifted.
Yeah.
So it should be fine. You know, and the heat is off also. You know.
Heat is off.
Yeah. So there's no way to just dry it up.
I tried as well as I could, but my phone took cement out.
I'm more worried about the water boiler.
Yeah.
All right. I think we're okay.
I shouldn't call like environmental protection or something.
No, I don't think so. Yeah, I mean, it's not gasoline. Bottle of bleach poured next to our boiler, and we're hoping it won't start a fire. Life. Are your leaves going okay? I'm going to actually take this a little further. So at this point, I'm going to explore it becoming a little larger, like it got very close to the camera. So I have to make a keyframe for it, F6. I probably want it to turn just for so it stays interesting. And maybe I am going to make it quite a bit larger, you know, like it's gotten closer to me. And that would produce this kind of effect. I got carried away, right? That was like way too big. Okay. Now, what about it landing on the ground, right? I feel like it stayed big for too long. So I'm going to go a little further, make yet another keyframe. And this is feel, by the way, right? This is not like, this is a large part of animation. The whole thing is just like feeling your way through it. What feels natural, you know, and that may take, you know, quite a bit of time to develop your own, you know, sensitivity to the imagery, to what it is you're trying to suggest. That looks better. And now when it comes along the ground, I do want to make it feel like it's really on the ground. You probably have a keyframe there already. Now, I don't mind if you go at a slightly different pace. You got the idea, right? Ours are not the same. So you can have a different number of keyframes and a different attitude about when it should turn and when it shouldn't, right? And this is something worth going over a few times because like the cube bouncing, at this stage, I'm leaving flat graphics behind, flat 2D graphics, that I'm trying to apply a relationship with the real world. So here I am at the end of my little path, and it doesn't look like it's on the ground, and I have a good way to do that. Part of it's going to be this feature of the free transform tool where you go between handles and skew it. It's making it look large, so then I'm going to squeeze it, and I'm going to skew it some more. And you'll notice each time I do it, it feels flatter. Now it looks like it's on the floor. And I'm pretty happy with that. Would it be useful to do this from scratch one more time? Come on. It's okay to say yes or no or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so too, really. I think someone got locked out. Let me just let them in. You know, people's internet goes down, right? And then they have to log back in. Don't ever think I don't recognize that. I don't blame anybody. The internet is the way that it is. Okay, we're going to do this one more time. I think this is a terrific, terrific exercise. We'll have enough time, if it works, to make more leaves rather quickly. You know, you might remember 2 weeks ago, I guess it was, we did a really elaborate two-dimensional graphic animation. It was very trippy, you know, kind of crazy 60s looking thing. We made a box with a hole in it and all these echoes were traveling around. One of you said, oh, now it's really interesting, right? I think that was Matthew who had to leave today. We did that by copying one layer that was really good, you know, and making 3 layers that were just duplicates. The other layers just started a little later so that the first motion was followed by another one, which is exactly what would happen on a branch. You know, as the weakest leaf got pulled off by the breeze, then the next weakest next, and they sort of follow each other in the breeze. So that's my goal today at this point. So if you want to redo it, this is a really cool way to do it, right? Just go to the file menu with me. I did this earlier in front of you. You should see revert. That basically means go back to the last time I saved it. And I don't think we saved at all. So it should go back right to the original. So we're actually starting from scratch one more time. Revert. All right. Get comfortable. So zoom out enough to see what you're doing. So you did file menu revert, right? Unless you just arrived. And then you're opening up leaf 1 from today's assets. Okay. Now, remember, this thing wasn't a symbol. The leaf isn't in the library, so we're going to start there. Select the entire leaf and convert it to symbol. That's going to come second nature. You're going to do it without even thinking. Select the artwork, and you'll see a blue box around it after that. Now, you know, about extending the timeline, it's kind of up to you when you do that. You notice I keep doing it at different times. You know, but it's the last one I did in 72 frames. It was 3 seconds. It was just enough time. I think I'd like to go a little bit longer. So let's extend this out to frame 80. So I'm going all the way out to 80. Give us a little more room. And I'm going to F5, which is the one I always use to buy myself more time. I could make the guide first, or I could turn the tween on first. You know why I'm going to make the guide? I think I'd rather do all the tweening steps back to back. You know, make a set out of it. So let's just leave that object alone and just make a guide. Now, so easy to forget this. I've done it hundreds of times and I still forget sometimes. We're going to control click on this layer to get a menu, or right click on Windows. So earlier, you know, Jacob accidentally clicked this. And, you know, I've done it. Everybody's going to do it. It just means you got to be extra careful. This is the only one that's going to work. This is a different kind of guide. I almost never use it. This is the one that allows this kind of cool path. Now, since we extended the earlier layer, this one's the same length, and that's kind of nice. All we really got to do is draw the guide. Now, the one concern I have, and I keep repeating it, is how could you be sure you're drawing on the right layer? How could you be absolutely sure that you're not drawing on the wrong layer? The best way to be sure, because this is a little confusing if you look at it, they're both highlighted. That's kind of weird. But this one, the whole layer is highlighted. I feel pretty sure if I draw, I'm going to draw on the wrong layer. So I got in this habit a long time ago. Click the keyframe, then draw. Yeah, you'll never get lost that way. So we're going to click this keyframe, the guide layer itself, and I'm going to draw that guide. So again, pencil tool. Well, the secret with the pencil tool seems to be zoom back. It's a little easier to use. So I'm looking for the same thing, a loop at least, maybe 2, and at the bottom I want it to flatten out. So you start on it, not up here, not down here. Be sure you click the keyframe so you know you're on the right layer. But this is where I begin. Loop, loop, flatten. You know, I want to say something that really bugs me. There's a tool in most Adobe products that this one doesn't have, which I wish it did, called the Navigator. It's such a great way to zoom in and test stuff. This is a little harder, but really, if I look over the whole track, I could find problems. I don't see any potholes, any weird extreme angles either. It's just a bit of a headache to go looking over the whole track. But look, if we were getting paid $1,000 for this, I don't think any of us would complain about zooming in and checking every little inch of it, you know. All right, but I'm going to come back. Well, I'll admit, that is going to be the tricky part. Is the track smooth enough to work? Mine's looking good. So all that's left is the whole classic tween part. Remember, we made a symbol when we started, so the leaf's already a symbol, right? I'm going to go turn on the tween and then create the opposite end, tell the leaf where to go. All right, so I'm going down to the lower keyframe this time. That's the one that represents the moving object. So I'm going to tell that one to classic tween. So I'm control clicking right on the keyframe. I'm making sure I'm on the right layer, I'm on the right keyframe, and I'm choosing the right flavor of tween. Classic. So I see a few things that make me happy. I got a black dot on top. That's my guide. I got a black dot beneath it. That's my leaf. It's purple. It's got the little dots my tween is on. All I got to do is tell the leaf where it should stop along the track. You know, the A train, it said, is the longest subway in New York, which means it's probably the longest subway in the world. It goes from Rockaway all the way to Washington Heights, but you could stop anywhere along the way. Same thing here, I could stop anywhere along the way. But I'm going to go to the end of the timeline, so I'm being really careful to find that. There is this little scroll bar. And on this one case, I don't even have to think about what layer I'm on, because as soon as I grab the leaf, it's going to know. It makes the keyframe for me, and I could drop it anywhere I want, but I want it on the ground. It gets easier each time. You start to recognize what the problems are. Clicking the wrong guide's a problem. Having a messy path is a problem. You know, it's just repetition. Yeah, you know, I want to just ask a question. Naftali, you know, you've taken a class with me before. We've been through a lot together. We went through this whole thing trying to get you a computer. Are you getting any satisfaction out of this thing yet? Is it traveling?
No, I'm actually having trouble with the whole train track thing, because like it's not moving it's not moving properly as the way I want it to.
Do you want to screen share with me? Maybe I could help out. I'm going to turn off my screen share.
I'm not able to do that right
Not?
now. No, but like keep going. I can definitely fix it.
Hey, Naftali, do you have a clue why you can't screen share?
Not sure, but like I'm trying to figure it out right now.
So when you click the screen share button, what happens?
It doesn't show anything.
So you click it and nothing comes up.
No.
Wacky.
Yeah. So definitely like I'll try to fix that. So
All right.
keep going.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else? Would anyone else like to screen share? You saw I helped Jacob out. He's got it now. Anybody? Even though Tiffany watches the chats for me, I'm even peeking there. Some funny comments. I really should read these more often. All right. All right. So it goes. This is what I would do once I got that far. Remember, a number of times now, we made an object move from a primary location to another primary location, and then we went in between and jazzed it up. You know, whether it was zigzagging or whatever it was supposed to do on the way. I made sure I got from Brooklyn to Manhattan, and then figured out what happened on the road later. So that's what I'm doing now. I got from the sky to the ground, and now I want to figure out what it ought to do, because it's kind of dry and not really believable as it is, because it's facing me the whole time, and it's saying the exact visual size. You know a building's huge when you're down the street, but it looks small because you're down the street. So that's going to happen for everything. So I'm going to bring myself all the way back to the beginning.
Your screen share is off, Professor.
Oh, thank you. This, there we go. Thank you very much. So it's not believable. You know, I'm glad it's making loops and all that, but again, it's flat. You know, the leaf is facing me, and how often is that going to happen? It's going to be tilting. So there's that. Also, as I was trying to say, if it looks the same size, that's implying that it's falling straight down like a sheet instead of moving back and forth in space. I mean, you know, when things move in space, they appear to change size. So it's a combination of getting the tilt, right, as well as the size. So if the thing tilts and turns, there's really something going on in the air, and that's really what I want to do. So I bring the playhead back early, and then I drag it manually to figure out where I'd want it to change. And I definitely think the loop, the wind circling around like that, would have to jostle that leaf. Now, I was saying earlier, this is more advanced. We were doing similar steps last week with the cube. I have to force a keyframe every time I want to make a change to that leaf. So I'm going to the leaf layer alone, and I'm going to F6 it. And I check to make sure that that black keyframe is there before I try anything. There we go. I could zoom in if I want. Command plus becomes kind of useful at this point. And I definitely want the all-powerful transform tool. So if I want it to feel like it moved a little further, I'll make it smaller. If I want the wind to feel like it's pushing it around, I might rotate it. If I want it to feel less frontal, you know, like it's on an angle, I'm going to skew it. Now, skewing sometimes makes the object feel too large. So you'll often have to scale it again after you skew. So it feels less frontal. It's on an angle. And I might just scrub the playhead to get an idea how that went. That's pretty good, but I want it to straighten out after that loop is done. So I think I'm going to do it here. You know, let's be clear though. We're all going to imagine this differently and produce all kinds of beautiful different ways to treat it, right? I'm just making suggestions now. So at this stage, I want it to change its orientation, change some of its qualities. So I'm going to click it with my, oh, right, I didn't make the keyframe. You see how I couldn't get at it? I better do that F6 trick. This is the moment I want. I find that moment. Then I'm going to F6. I love this F6 business because it really lets me customize any instance that deserves it. So I think this would probably continue blowing around in the wind. Oops. I'm going to rotate it a little. I might skew it the other way. Help it feel like it shifted. Right? And should it be bigger or smaller? I don't know. I'm going to drag the playhead to see how that feels. There's the first one, passing that keyframe I made a few minutes ago. It's turning because I turned this one. Oh, that looks really good. I like the way these relate. I'm going to follow the same kind of logic. I'm going to keep going down and along the timeline. Here's another loop. The kind of wind that would produce that is going to really change the shape of the object, at least in terms of skewing it and the apparent size and its rotation. You know, I want to ask you, any of you guys see the movie American Beauty? No? In American Beauty, this guy makes a movie of a garbage bag, a little bag in the breeze. But he's an inspired filmmaker. And just the garbage bag moving in the breeze was flat out poetry. It was one of the best moments in the entire movie. Called American Beauty. All right, so whenever you want to do that, unless you're on a keyframe, you have to make it. So you click there and F6 it again. So, you know, I don't like repeating myself too much, but remember, laptops, some other kinds of keyboard do require the function key for all the F keys to work. F5, F6. Mine does. I have to hold FN. So I got to figure out what to do. I just came from here. And I'm going to rotate a little more this way. And I'm definitely going to skew it more this way, and maybe even more that way. And to make sure it doesn't feel huge, I'm going to squeeze it a bit. So what I've got is one keyframe producing its thing, and then it tweens over to this one, which I kind of like, but I think maybe it should rotate some more. There it comes. And that looks a lot better. Well, this is less consistent than a car, right? It's like a piece of paper in the wind, really. So it comes around, something's going to happen after it finishes that loop. So I think I'm going to make another keyframe here. Now look, I think you probably, this is one of my favorite exercises, by the way, and I honestly feel, other than all the techniques, it's likely to make you more sensitive to the illusion of life. All right, so I made a keyframe right here, and it deserves some kind of action. I'm going to skew it the opposite way, things moving back and forth in the breeze. Maybe rotate it just for excitement. And it does feel kind of huge, so I'm going to make it smaller. I'm going to keep backing up manually just to see how it feels in context. Well, that's just sliding down kind of nicely. We're going at different speeds, and that's fine. I'm approaching the ground, though, and I want it to flatten out on the ground. And I also noticed a small problem. I'm not sure how I did it, but the guide disappears one frame early. So that could break everything. And since I spotted it, I'm going to go ahead and fix it. You know, they're not even. And you wouldn't want the train track to disappear while you were still on the train. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to F5. Just, again, add time. All right, let me get back to the subject. So each keyframe of my leaf is giving me the opportunity to customize it. So I'm coming down to the last keyframe. That one's already there. And if I like where it is and when it is, I don't have to F6 now because there's a keyframe there. But I could still use my transform tool. So I'm going to skew this to make it feel flatter. Squeeze it until I believe that it's on the ground. There it is on the ground. That one was a lot better than my last one. And what I'm predicting for you guys is, you know, those of you who love this a lot, that you'll do this another dozen times just for yourself. Because each time you'll have a new idea, you know, what you might want to do. Just to get one leaf to feel convincingly in the breeze is pretty exciting. You know, boy, all we had to do is like add a little wind sound and maybe some imagery behind it, and it's going to be increasingly believable. But I do want to mention something that, you know, we're coming toward the end of the class, but I do want to mention, if I copied this layer and changed the timing, with a handful of steps, I could then go to any keyframe. So say I had 3 leaves at that point. I could change them individually. If I got nervy, I could even use tint and change their colors and all kinds of things. I want to just show you sort of rapidly how that would go. It's very related to something we've done and done successfully together about 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks. So one thing I'm going to warn you is, we do what we're going to do. The end isn't going to be even anymore. So we're going to have to even out the layers, but that's fine. If you feel ready to join me, then do. Otherwise, observe. This is going to be all in the last half hour of the video. So what I want to do is select the leaf layer and make copies. And I think the best order is to prepare new layers for those copies. So I'm making some room. I'm highlighting the leaf layer, but what I'm going to do is click this little plus sign to make another layer and another layer. Now, the way the new layer button works, it makes the new layers over the current layer. So I didn't go over the guide. I'm between the guide and the original leaf. I'm going to prove it. If I'd been here and then made new layer, they'd show up on top, and that won't work. So I'm going to delete it. Click my leaf first, then make my 2 layers. Why is that important? Well, for the guide to guide 3 different layers, they have to be arranged like a sandwich. the original guided layer. The guide is on top, and all the layers in the middle will use the guide. So even if I made one in the wrong place, if I drag it in the sandwich, it will be part of, let's call it a guided group. All right, so what I'm gonna do is quickly, and again, listen, if you got one layer, you're good. Don't feel like this is essential, but it's cool. I need to highlight this whole layer so I can copy it. Last time we did it, we just clicked once on this part of the layer. And you notice it all highlighted? So all the layers do that. So I'm going to highlight the lower layer. That means all the keyframes are selected now. All the tweens are selected. You just simply click right on the layer name, one click. It's all about option dragging for Mac people and all about alt dragging for Windows people. So here I go. You keep option down, keep it down, or alt. Hold it down the whole time. Press and drag this layer up and drag it over. I dragged it up to make the copy. Option lets you copy. Alt lets you copy. I dragged it over so they wouldn't start at the same time. I'm going to do it again. My layer's not highlighted, so I'm going to highlight this one. Click the layer name once. It's all highlighted. I'm going to hold down Option or Alt, up and over. So now I got 3 leaves. I want you to see this. Ooh, ah.
How did you make them disappear?
You know, that's just the end of the timeline. So if you make yours loop, you'll see it also. But I'll tell you the truth, I did want to make it disappear, you know, of my own decision. So I'll squeeze it in, you know, just so you could see it. But you know what's really happening is a couple quick things. If you want to check out the preview, remember on Windows, and correct me if I'm wrong, hold down Control, press Enter, and you'll see that preview separate, you know, sitting on top. It's easy to watch. They'll disappear at the end because it hits the last frame and starts over. But it lets you loop it so you can really get to know it. You know, and that's, you know, really very helpful. So, you know, you do a lot of work sometimes and then figure out how to recycle it, get more mileage out of it, often by duplicating. I love the circles they make in the air. They're like dancers. You know, it's believable because this is how they would behave in the wind. You know, some leaves stay on the branch, but any that come off at the same time are affected by the same wind or close to the same time. But I do want to point out something regarding Naftali's question. If you look at the end, I'm a little surprised that that worked. I didn't think it would work because the guide disappeared early. It's weird to me that all the leaves seem to fall, even though the guide disappeared. Bizarre. That was just lucky. So what I really should do to be sure that I'm not banking on luck is come to the end of each layer and F5 where necessary to make sure nothing disappears when it shouldn't. See, this leaf here is going to disappear right after frame 80.
Yeah, I was going to say that they disappear because it's not extending over itself.
And that would have been the more correct answer, really, to Naftali's question. But they all disappear on the last frame because there's no more frames. You know? But I'm going to neaten that up just so that that doesn't cause any confusion. Now, the thing is, one odd thing about this at the end is, remember, all the leaves land in the same spot. So once the first one stops, there it goes, the next one comes along and stops right over it, right? And then the third one comes and stops right over it in an impossibly neat stack. There, it looks like there's one leaf left, which is a little odd. So if I didn't like that, I could click a keyframe to choose a given leaf and change it a little bit. So I don't know what I want to do. Maybe I don't want to just move this one over a little. Oops. Get that a little more carefully. I'm just going to lock the guide layer so I don't move it. But I could move it while it's selected. I could, if I wanted to, tint it so I could tell that it's a different leaf. Or maybe just use brightness, so it'll be darker than the others. So now when the other leaf comes, I should see two leaves there. I'm going to actually change this one also. So I don't know what I want to do with it exactly. I think I'm going to just move it over a bit. I'm going to change its tone. So I have to click it once. Remember that about color effects. And try it the opposite way. And I want to see if that was worth it. So now there's 3 leaves on the ground. You know, by the way, if it's looping in Flash Player or in a GIF, I won't even have enough time to appreciate this. It'll be over in an instant. So I might just F5 them all to give them a little time to sit there. So nothing's happening, but at least they'll stay on stage before it starts to loop again. All right, there's my little pile. And then at the end, after my little pause I created, it just starts over.
They also changed colors at the end too, if you didn't notice that.
Yeah, I did that, remember, by selecting them one by one, right? And just remember, we went over this a little bit earlier today. The properties palette will not show you your color options unless you go to a keyframe, which I did, but also click the object once. So that allowed me to use brightness or tint to differentiate it. So I've got lots of choices about what I do with it. I could have tinted it instead. So they're on top of each other, so a little. So I actually moved each one a little bit, and then I clicked them so I could change their colors. And this is the kind of thing. By the way, you know, if today was a little bumpy and we're all kind of tired, I'm feeling pretty satisfied. We did eventually succeed. But you know, things that I might have liked to try would be to make more changes along the way. It's kind of beautiful them being the same, so I'm not saying one has to. But the first leaf gets to this spot here, right? Then the next leaf comes along and reaches that similar position here. Well, what would have happened if I changed that one? You know, couldn't I do that? Why not? You know, I'm not saying necessarily that that'd be better, but you know, it fell off the branch later. So it might not move exactly the same as the other one. You see the difference? So now that this leaf here is pointing a different way. You know, this gets complicated because you have to really get to know your own timeline. So here's the third leaf finally arrived at the outside of that loop. And if I wanted it to do anything, like get, you know, go back in space, for example. It's really small. That leaf's going to behave different. That one goes far away. Here it comes. And then it comes back forward because it's getting big again. Did you see it? That one on the outside, bright. So the thing is, we got a lot of keyframes here, you know, so where I want to get us is to that place where everybody's comfortable with their layers. And, you know, sometimes I get lost, you know, so many layers, so many keyframes. You know, if I can't just take a break, what I'll probably do is hide them all, right? And then remind myself one by one what's going on. There's one leaf there, one leaf in the guide. And this way I could focus on that for a little while if I need to, you know, if I'm feeling overwhelmed. Because, you know, animation can be like that. Today, we're working with them all on. If you do want to look at yours later or continue it, I'd suggest that you save it now. Let's do File menu, Save. It's still in the folder wherever you left it. You just updated it. The Swifts, if you make a Swift now, Command Return on a Mac, Control Enter on Windows. It's in the same folder. So you can even look at that next time. And study it. See what you like and what you don't like. Guys, listen, I have to talk about the homework. And I got to warn you, right? Like, I want to be fair. I've been teaching motion graphics for a really long time. I don't even remember how long. But I upgraded for the sake of my evolving career and yours to be less about graphics, 2D graphics, and more about the world. So there's more people and walking and things, bouncing and all this stuff in the physical world, not just people's logos and text. I wouldn't mind doing some of that. But I'm focusing more on storytelling, the kind of skills you're going to need to eventually tell a story. I want to show you guys something. I'm going to try this one. Watch this. What's that? It'll loop. So what's going on is a brick. Let's see. I want to make this a different size. Give me a minute there. So a brick is coming from elsewhere, hits this seesaw, and you notice the seesaw bounces, right? It gets hit and it sort of bounces. Even the wall, the wheel, I mean to say, does a little squash and stretch once it gets hit. Also, the brick slides down. Just focus on the brick with me for a moment. So it hits it and then falls back down, bounces in the air, and then it falls down. So the brick has to follow a motion guide, classic motion guide. Then when it hits the seesaw, it has to leave the guide. It's a bit of a challenge. And then gravity pulls it down and slides down the seesaw. And now focus on the wheel. So once the brick hits, the wheel squashes and stretches and then comes back, just one squash. Now focus on the seesaw itself, that pinkish seesaw. So as soon as it hits, it swivels, it does a little rotation. These are all classic tweening things. And of course, the star of the show is how it launches the ball. I even made the ball take a little tiny bounce before it completely launches. It's hard to tell, it's subtle, but I do think it improved it. So I want to do this with you next week or sometime soon. But I got to admit, it's crazy challenging. But what I will say is the file is in today's assets. So that means each of you actually have a copy of this without the animation. It's just the artwork. And as I recall, everything's on a different layer. The layers are named, but nothing's in the library. Nothing is tweened. The brick is off stage on the right, up in the air, and the other objects are just sort of sitting there waiting for something to happen. So that's not the homework. It's just saying, if you can't resist it, or maybe my class has become too easy for you, maybe you have experience or whatever, some magic touch, feel free to play with it. It's not an assignment. We're going to do it together. I would hope to, anyway, in the near future. But I want to tell you, I have to change the homework, so I want to actually show you something. This includes secondary action, all kinds of things from the illusion of life. Let me just get in here. All right. Let me get to the handout. I'm going to let everybody out in a minute. We lost a lot of time for a variety of reasons today, and I would have liked to let you out early. Instead, it looks like I may let you out late. I just want to get to the handout. The homework has to change again. I honestly didn't think that the guides were going to take that long. They've never taken that long in the past. But frankly, I only taught it on Zoom once. So I'm going to blame, some of the challenges of remote teaching for why it took that long. I probably could have walked over and fixed things rather quickly in a classroom to help people stay up to speed, or Tiffany could have done that too. So we're not going to do this. The idea was we were going to do the brick, seesaw, and ball together, and then you were going to improve it on your own by changing the landscape or, in some way making it completely new. So I'm going to change this right after class. I'm changing the handout and I'm going to re-upload it, but I want to tell you what the homework's going to be instead. I want you to do more with the leaf file. Now you've got two choices, right? You could do it over. If necessary, download the zip again. Do it over. But I want you to change it. I want a background, maybe a tree, I don't know, imagine something. Frankly, even if you want to draw your own leaf, if you think you could do it all, you can. So the idea is the leaf falling exercise. You could continue the one you started today, but I want it to look like yours by the time I get it back. You could start it over if you're feeling ready. You could start from scratch if you're extra ready, right? So again, there's different levels for everybody to find a comfort level that helps them move forward. Wherever you're at is good. Take a step forward from there. So if somehow you're very advanced, take a step from there. If you're struggling, take a step from there, right? We're not in a race. So ignore what's in that homework box. I'm going to update it in a matter of minutes once we go. Does anyone have any questions about the homework? Am I being clear? If not, come back and visit the handout later today. Just refresh your browser, right? Because I'm going to update it.
Wait, for the homework is we're gonna make like do more on the leaves.
You're gonna make this file original.
Okay.
If you want to add leaves, you can. If you want to add a tree in a back, I definitely want you changing the background because we have no context. This thing is like the bizarre leaf in outer space or something, you know? So you're gonna have to make layers for that kind of stuff. Don't break any layers you want to keep. So Zach, I want to be very clear. What I'm saying is you could continue this and take it to a new place. You know, people did crazy things with this in the past. Folks, if you have to leave now, I already took attendance. Don't worry about it. But if you got a couple minutes, I'm going to dish out what people did last semester. You know, give me a minute. I'll show you some ideas, what people did. So give me a moment to find that. Let's see what happened in the spring. Oh, actually, they all did brick seesaw stuff. I never had them do the leaf. I don't know if this is going to help at all. Just take a quick look, just in terms of how people use their imagination on something started in class. This person got so good they were scary. That was my seesaw. You recognize it, right? They just went nuts with it. Really serious business. And they're admittedly the best ones. Are you kidding? So I guess that was an egg. I wish I had time to help this person make the transformation more believable. I have some tricks for them, you know, so the tadpole could, you know, really turn into the frog, but it's still pretty awesome. So look, they're the best, right? I mean, in that class, there was probably, I don't know, roughly 20 people, and I'm just showing you 4. So look, I'm not asking you to do this one because we really need practice. We spent a long time in the class getting the hang of it. And so these people got confident. But the point that I'm trying to make is just this. We're doing the same logic, but with the leaf exercise. What can you do to make it your own? What can you imagine, and how would you achieve it with what you've learned so far? And again, judge by yourself. How confident are you? If you're feeling super confident, push it, right? Because this is what you want to do. If you're feeling nervous or you just need to get the foundation, then keep it simple. Maybe add a leaf like Zach recommended and draw a tree, or just do something to breathe fresh life into it so it's not the template. Any questions? Any other questions? I'm glad to answer them.
No, not really.
No. Listen, we all got to be tired. I know you all had full weeks before mine. It's a rough way. This class probably could have used to be on a Monday after everybody caught up on sleep. It's one of the hardest classes you're likely to take. At least I think it is. I'm trying to make it doable, but I'm shot. I will be a complete idiot within about an hour when I won't be able to do simple math or tie my shoelaces because I've given it all. I'm going to go be a blob for a little while. So guys, last chance for questions. If not, I'm going to say farewell. I really don't mind answering any question about anything that I can.
Can't take influence at all.
Folks, listen, let me congratulate you on your bravery. If it went smooth from the beginning of class, wonderful. If it didn't and you picked yourself up, dusted yourself off, got the hang of it later, you're creative. That's what creatives do. You know, we fall on our face and then we get back up and we just get better every time. It's worth the little falls along the way. That's fine. So I will see you all Friday, but I do have to remind you the one only awkward thing. I'm going to be on the road and I'm not sure I'll be able to teach from the road. I'm trying to figure that out before then. So my goal is if I can't be there, it's going to be an independent class through video. I'm going to video alone, post it, and let you all know before Friday morning how to watch the video and what you're supposed to do. I really don't know now, so you can't really ask me now. I have to figure it out. So again, look for that email. I hope you're getting BMCC email. If not, late in the week, go to Blackboard.
Food, eat all the food. I don't want, and you're not fooling anyone.
Somebody said food and made me hungry. Starving, actually. If you look, I think one or two of you don't have access to your BMCC email. So I'm going to look out for you. What you have to do is check out Blackboard on Thursday. You know, say, because there'll be an announcement right on Blackboard for my class. It as well as an email. I'm going to do both. All right, you guys good?
Mm-hmm.
All right. You'll see me next week, and I won't see you. So, talk to you soon enough. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, Professor.
Bye. I'm slowing down. Tiffany, how are you doing over there?
I'm all right. I was just I wanted to ask about when you do the guide layer, the regular guide layer, not the motion one, couldn't you just make it apparent to the shape layer and it would work still?
So the guide layer, the traditional guide layer with the icon that looks like a T, is there only for you to put things down for positioning. Do you know how actors put tape on the floor? They call it blocking, so they know where to step. It's essentially for blocking. It doesn't have anything to do with movement. You know, unless it's changed over the years. I never see a need for it. I honestly just don't need it. It's not for motion.
Okay.
Did you have a different experience with it?
I mean, I don't know. I thought like you could just make the shape a child, like make the guide a parent layer, and then just like put the other thing right underneath
Not really.
it.
I mean, I like the way you're looking at it. And
sure.
The classic motion guide is kind of parent-child.
Yeah.
They're kind of joined as it was a weird kind of group. And as we saw today, everything in between are more children. You know, the guide acts that way. But no, the regular guide isn't going to be part of this class. And honestly, all these years, you know the only reason I ever use it? If I want to hide a layer and show a client the SWIF or the GIF.
You're still recording, by the way.
Am I?
Yes.
And I thought I was so clever and turned it off. I never get that right. Okay, you two people, I was going into a boring place there. Give me a second. I'm saying goodbye to them.